Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
and Rohith.
It's time yet again to explore the vast catalog and find out what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And tonight, we're talking about What If? Season 3, aka the final season of What If. We're back for one final rodeo with Huatu, and we've reached the end of the long winding journey there. Uh, Rohit, how do you feel about season 3 overall?
I think overall, the more initially after finishing the season, I thought, oh, I liked it. But the more I think about it, there's 3 episodes that are fine, but not things I'll ever revisit. 3 other episodes that are generally fun and entertaining and engaging, and the last two are a decent enough cap off to the whole show. But I feel like with where we start in the second to last episode, I feel like this is something that could have maybe had a one or two more episodes to flesh out the new group that we have at the end. And I think overall, What If is a show that had a lot of promises premise and had certainly a lot of some highs, but low lows. And overall, I think it's an experience in terms of the actual show. It's something where I don't know if it will be one of the highlights of the multiverse saga, let alone the MC as a whole. But with the anthology format and just how it goes about doing its thing, there are some gems hidden in the rough. And I think if nothing else, it's just kind of interesting as like a little, you know, side thing, a side project where you have main movie actors coming and doing, their characters in animation, and the novelty of it in terms of the stories, in terms of the action, I think is enough to where if you haven't seen What If, I would recommend just checking out certain episodes. And I think the best episodes show what this show could have been if it fulfilled full scale to that kind of energy. So yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, What If, not a show for everyone. I'm a sucker for just What If, like, period. I think I liked it more than maybe most. But I At times, again, the issue I've had with the show from the whole time, even the beginning, I think kind of went a little more off the rails each season. But I think especially this season, at times it could complicate itself when it really didn't have to. Because it's what if? What if anything can happen? But we kind of we kind of narrowed the scope of that, either due to budget or just due to it's kind of the rules that we've kind of started in the MCU. I think this season we'll get into with one of the episodes. We had a really great workaround that we never did anything with, and I think that was like something they learned by the end. Like, man, we really should have enacted that a lot earlier, and we didn't. But it's this last outing, it's more of a mixed bag than a slam dunk. Unfortunately, we have some good moments. I think not our very ending, but I think essentially our ending is is pretty good. But we'll get there. We did have some really good highlights though. So let's further delay. Let's start breaking them down. We're gonna kind of go over the highlight reel for our last 8 what if stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jacob weighs in saying, "I still have the belief that didn't need an overarching story." I would agree to a point. I would say yes, we didn't need an overarching. Basically, if we did an overarching story, we would only use it one time, and season one made a case for that. After that, though, that's when we got to the point of okay, now we've kind of enacted the overarching story as a regular thing, and that deflates the importance of the overarching. It's like it's the secret weapon you only want to use once, and they've kind of
See,
violated that. So I think it can work, but
in that respect, not just to sort of add in, is that I kind of feel the opposite. Is that, well, not the opposite, but if you wanted to do an overarching story, I feel like that's something you do at the very end.
well, sure. I'm saying like in terms of when we did it in the first season. I think the way we did it in the first season was good. But you're right though. In a perfect world, they knew we're going for 3 seasons. We will save that for the end. Then you're right.
Mhm.
If they didn't know that.
Yeah, but I think for what it is, I don't feel like it having an overarching story necessarily hurts the show. as much as people make it out to be. I think even for the individual anthology episodes, there's still certain decisions or certain ways in which like the what if situations play out that maybe leave a little bit of a little to a lot to be desired among certain fans.
Okay. All right, so I think we're gonna just press on there. So episode 1. What if the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers? So yeah, this I got it. So yeah, here's the thing with the What If releases. I think season I don't think we did this with season 1. I think it was just literally seasons 2 and 3, and we did like the holiday thing, where basically like, every day in December we had a new episode. And I mean, I gotta admit, season 2 worked like gangbusters. This season I think it was a thing where sure also really helped that we had a Christmas episode, but we did not have that this go around. But the point being. It's exciting to unwrap like a new episode of What If every day. I thought that was kind of cool, but it really was an inauspicious start. Episode 1, I think, really flopped hard. I think it really it was an episode with a lot of there's potential for sure. There's potential because Jacob, myself, and a few people. We can enjoy mech stories. I love Megas XLR, which is essentially is the most off the beaten path mech story you can have. And this I know this is not the same thing, but it's Voltron can be fun. Dexter's Lab, really great kind of stab at Voltron.
I don't know if those would be considered proper mech stories.
Well, that's I said Megas was off the beaten path of the mech story, but you know what I mean. That's in reference to a bunch of genres and mech stories and stuff that we did in Megas. Megas, you're right, is not the definitive example. I'm just saying it's like an example of a mech thing that I really liked. So mech stories are complicated in ATM because they can become very samey, right?
I mean, that goes for really pretty much any genre, but so.
You really don't want to agree with me at all on this mech point, do you?
No, I just don't like when I think of mech stories. I think like Gundam or Neon Genesis Evangelion or Macross. But that's more the anime side of things. So
All right. The point being, mech stories, they do feel like they can be difficult to nail in a way that's memorable versus it's been done better, like Gundam did it better, or what have you. So I think the problem here is that we kind of peaked early in the episode. We have the old school 2D, Voltron-esque, opening, which was like the best part of the episode. It kind of recaps the Gamma War. Like that was fantastic, and it kind of makes you wonder, man, if we were a really ambitious show, maybe we would have done that whole episode in that style. Obviously, it's not practical, but it does make you wonder.
No, I really, that's the thing that kind of was saddened about for this season is that whenever they did sort of other animated styles was like, oh, this just like, there's just some flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
And going to the What If house style just feels a little, it's not as creatively limiting as some people would say, but it just feels like a house style that, you don't really get sort of have the level of creativity that you could with any other animated style. And I think the What If style is there because you want to depict the photorealistic, versions of all the actors playing their characters. But at that point, it just feels like you're just watching like an animated version of a live action thing, and I would prefer to see the live action thing or go full animated.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think a lot of people always came down really hard on the What If style. Where on the whole, I liked it, but I did indeed see I saw the kryptonite to it, which is basically a lot of the likenesses can really blend if you're not careful, and you kind of saw that occasionally. Where it's like this weird, like uncanny valley is not. I don't think the term I want to use here, but it's kind of like there's a lot of similar design traits in characters, which again, I guess it's like you have to really just make the characters distinctive, or like in like the wrong frame or the wrong light, they're going to look a little like, man, he doesn't really look like that actor, and he looks just more like he's kind of a generic character model. So the animation that goes into him, I think, really really goes a long way and really helps him. And I think that maybe in some way, shape, or form, thought like like the costuming, like, or something along those lines, like a trait that the character has more than like the character animation will kind of get it over the line and kind of help make our jobs easier. And I think that kind of maybe was it's a bit of a crutch. I think kind of showed up here. And even one of my favorite episodes, you kind of look at character without a mask on, it's like, huh, yeah, yeah, our likeness kind of a little sanded down on that one, maybe.
Yeah, I
So that
get
was always that was always like the hang up with the style. But I mean, on the whole, I liked what it was going for. I think in the first season, I think it was more so because of, like the first time, like you see like the agent, the Captain Carter episode, like okay, there's something here. There's this can work. Is we saw like the concept art. So I wonder how we're going to translate. Basically, it looks like the art of Marvel books kind of come to life, which I think was a really appealing idea.
mm-hmm.
Again, I think the novelty maybe just kind of wore off by season 3, or just again we hit those animation kind of like weak
Yeah,
points.
but the thing is that like, and the artist specifically to make mention is Ryan Menarding. I hope I pronounced his last name right. He's the artist that like makes those like or does a lot of the concept art for Marvel movies, and like some of the designs kind of pour over, and he contributes a lot to the art of like MCU movies and whatnot. But the thing is that his art style, like it looks cool in sort of like a Alex Ross kind of way. But when going to animation, a medium that emphasizes a level of fluidity, simplicity, and all that stuff, like that art style had kind of like has some significant limitations when you're trying to have a sense of motion and momentum to it. It didn't. It's not like a consistent thing for all episodes, even especially for this season. But I think just sometimes there is you don't feel when you're, let's say you're watching some other animated thing, there is a sense of energy to it, and especially for say the DC animated movies, like when they adapt certain comic styles, there's still a sense of like, oh, this is like an animated project, and whereas this, it's like it's kind of the weird thing where it's not like say rotoscope, but it's rotoscope meets 2D, and it's kind of this weird hybrid that doesn't feel like it's taking the best out of both.
Yeah. Let's see. So I want to talk about the core idea on this one. The core idea of essentially is what if Bruce Banner and Sam Wilson kind of became friends? Either it really this I wish they really clarified, because it really feels like had become friends instead of Sam and Steve Rogers, but it's unclear. Like the way it's framed is kind of, it makes you feel like it's a what if like he was running instead of Steve Rogers that day, but or a day. But I think the way it's intended to be is like, okay, this is just like another this is probably pre Ultron, like basically it's probably like around the time of like Winter Soldier and pre Ultron is probably when this happened, is my guess. But again, it's unclear, so it could have just been that's the what if. Like, what if they met instead of him and Cap? But at the end of the day, Sam Wilson still becomes Cap, so that's what throws everything for a loop for me here. But I don't know. Point being, like, what if these two became friends? And we have like the fun reworking of the on the left scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I love the whole veteran outreach thing where this makes a lot of sense. Sam Wilson would be really helpful to Bruce Banner and give him some therapy that he needed. And, would kind of help him cope. And and we have like the sad scene on the boat, because there's always a sad scene on a boat.
Yeah, that is a good point. It's interesting, these set of episodes. You kind of wonder if had it been released by end of this year rather than end of last year, it may be that some of these episodes would have hit a little bit more, because the fact of like Sam and Bruce being like friends, it's a premise that is interesting, but it's kind of an odd thing to do. Like, why these two? But considering in February we're having a movie where Sam Wilson's Captain America is fighting against the Hulk, I think on one respect, it feels like Marvel in seeing sort of the Mulder saga coming to an end, or them wanting to come to an end. It's like, all right, we need to just kind of get the ball rolling, finish up the saga, and then transition to the new status quo, whatever it is, post multiverse. And so I feel like this episode would have had a little bit more resonance if maybe this came out like after all the projects are coming out this year.
Well, remember again with all the shakeups and shiftings of things. I mean, I want to say at some point in development, it was probably the year in which we were going to get Captain America. At that point, New World Order, but not Brave New World, but we would have had that, and then this maybe would have been out a little bit more timely and had things actually stuck with their release dates.
No, I get that, but it's like I don't know what the difference would be in having it come out and say. I mean, the only reason why it would come out December this of last year versus December of this year was because like Wonder Man is coming out December 2025. Yeah. So I kind of wonder, like one, it being released daily, it's cool for us to kind of have like a daily, what if sort of deal. But the issue with the release schedule is that like it's not just you and I watching the Marvel shows and breaking and talking about the whatever. It's all the breakdown channels like New Rockstars, Screen Crush, all that stuff. And I feel like with how the second season is released, it feels like the third season being released this way and being the final season. It's like Marvel could have had more, juice in the tank for What If, but because of where the saga's ending with Doom and all that stuff, it's like, all right, we needed to kind of just, wrap up all the multiverse stuff, and whatever the ending is for Secret Wars, that's going to be the wrap up of all multiverse. And would it be cool for What If to come back, some shape or form post Secret Wars? Yeah, but it just seems the show was kind of hampered not just by its own like internal limitations, but by the studio politics of the reception that fans and critics have to the multiverse saga as a whole.
Right. All right, let's see. So just getting back to the episode a little here. So I guess just overall, so aesthetically, here's where the episode I think really tanks. So the Hulk in separating himself, which again, it's a comic idea. It's a pretty good idea. It's the idea, the Hulk makes a friend, he scares him off, and it's kind of Bruce Banner's last straw. He goes for the separation thing, which is like a lot of people actually have. We saw was essentially contemplated, or really kind of reverse engineered in the mainline MCU with Endgame. We kind of combined them, but it presumably was an attempt to separate, or well, I guess maybe not an attempt to separate. And they kind of ended up somewhat separate, and then they kind of brought themselves together in a really unusual way with Smart Hulk. It's it's based on kind of the comic idea of like what if we did kind of like break these two guys apart to kind of go off on their own, and we kind of literalized that here somewhat. So I think it's interesting that we did that. What I really didn't like aesthetically is that we made the separation of the Hulk, and then we basically did the Hulk as the Mole Man. We did it's like the giant, not even the Mole Man, like the giant monster Mole Man from the first appearance of the Fantastic Four. It's essentially what we do. We made like the giant Mole Man monster, and then he can spawn off like gremlins, practically a bunch of like a whole army of the Gamma Mole Man monster guys. It's just and we have like Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes of the whole Gamma World thing. I get that. And it feels like to some extent, because there's a lot of reverence for Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it feels like maybe there's some of that trickled down into, maybe we do kind of a Gamma War in kind of reference to the Gamma World thing, maybe a little bit. Just kind of that along with, some, again, I'd like it more pulling from like stories we weren't able to tell in the MCU. I think that's kind of What If at its best, when we're able to do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of see the stuff that, for example, Bill Foster in the suit. Love that. That's fantastic. Something we weren't able to do there, but we can do in animation. That makes a lot of sense. Also, Hank Pym in the Ant-Man suit. Like, all of this is great.
Yeah.
So, it's just at the end of the day, like this is kind of nothing. What we've done here. It's just instead, it feels like it's plus the way in which he tries to separate himself feels really stupid. Just like he's going to hit himself with more gamma energy, which basically turns him into a generic abomination inspired gremlin creature. It's essentially Spike from the Gremlins mixed with the abomination that ends up the scale of the Mole Man monster.
You honestly, a much more simpler like thing would be like maybe Doctor Strange is asked by Bruce Banner to like take away the Hulk or whatever. Yeah. And then some magic mishap happens and the Hulk, becomes this even more powerful creature.
Mind you, that's a go. I'm absolutely on board for that because it's a go-to for me. Because one of my again, I love Hulk versus Wolverine, which was paired with Hulk versus Thor, which did the separation of Bruce Banner from the Hulk using magic.
Mhm.
Not even using magic, using
and
essentially Doctor
and
Strange magic.
and I think it would have been interesting. Like as much as I appreciated Sam and Bruce's dynamic, Sam being kind of a counselor or someone who can help address Bruce's grief, I think Bruce palling around with Stephen Strange would have been interesting because
Yeah.
Stephen Strange, especially in the MCU, does bear a lot of similarities both visually and temperamentally to Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been interesting for Doctor Strange, a former neurosurgeon, to be able to quote unquote treat Bruce, and what does that and how the treatment was worse, how the or quote unquote the cure was worse than the disease, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, then the whole Gamma world, the Gamma War, transpires very uninterestingly in terms of the visuals and just how everything going to went to crap. We build the Mech Avengers, which again feels a little bit like an Earth's Mightiest, not Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but the Next Avengers plotline, which we had like the future where Ultron was the bad guy, and we had all the Avengers having the giant robots, which then kind of well, not giant. They had the robotic versions of themselves, including a giant, basically a giant man robot. Anyway,
Well, and also just to make another reference to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, like the lineup is kind of not similar, but in the same spirit of like the line of the Avengers when the Avengers kind of taken off the board by Kang.
yeah. Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Okay, so our mainline Avengers, I buy that they would have mechs because Tony made them mechs. Okay, that's fine, but I
Yeah.
don't buy that after the Avengers die, the next line of defense all have like mechs that are specified to, but we don't have a Shuri. I don't buy that happens. The only
Uh,
thing I can assume is that they've retrofitted the remains of the robots somehow, of the original mechs somehow. It's the only logic I can take from that, but even then, it's a buy.
I mean, I feel like Tony Stark, even though he is one of the smartest people in the world, like he's not like it could be that the mechs aren't as difficult to replicate in mass, depending upon what's like whatever the government, whoever has access to his blueprints or anything like that. Because it doesn't feel like the mechs are like specifically designed in a way that like no one could replicate or whatever. Because I remember how there's a distinct big plot point
Come
about.
on, they had enough spare mech parts to give Moon Knight a mech, really. Okay, look, it's Captain America, Red Guardian, I get it. Okay, those I can buy a government to come together and building a mech for these guys. Even even Monica Rambo, again, sponsored essentially by NASA, more so sword and everything, but essentially there's a program there.
Mhm.
But come on. Shang-Chi, Moon Knight of all people. Do you really buy that they're getting mechs?
Well, we don't really know the status quo of the world, like post beyond just like the world's in some level of disarray, with these gamma rated monsters. It could be the case that in that chaos, like I can imagine say the Ten Rings grows as an organization to where they can have the resources. And especially if they're in collaboration with some Asian governments, that maybe Shang-Chi could be like a representative of like parts of Asia or Asia as a whole. For Mark, I mean, like Khonshu is a deity. I'd
Oh,
be
come
funny.
on. There's no
I mean, I
actual
don't. I
argument.
mean, I could like I don't know like what the argument could be for why Mark is in that lineup beyond just like he's a mercenary, so he could be government contract, and somehow Moon Knight is like willingly being like a government contractor.
Okay, well, just overall, my issue with our second line of defense here is overall is that we have Marvel characters that not even factoring in how they would get mechs, just not even factoring that in. These are characters that don't need mechs. That we had nothing really interesting to them by giving them mechs. It's a toyetic kind of a mech, where it's like, okay, Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, not the mech type, in my opinion. I don't think they really would benefit from it. I don't really. There's no logistically good reason for them to have mechs of all the other characters that could potentially have mechs.
Well, wouldn't the same be applied for the OG Avengers? Like,
I'm not saying Tony built those.
but like none of the other heroes are like mech using or that heavy technology people. Um,
Well, again,
Like,
these they're like the Hulkbuster to the next degree, but even so, it's like it's like again, it's like the Avengers. They were thinking this was going to be successful, so okay, we have a bunch of Hulkbusters essentially of a very large scale, and we could take them out. So again, Iron Man's be the only one with a Hulkbuster. We should give the rest of the Avengers Hulkbusters. Black Widow, skilled fighter. Clint Barton, also a skilled fighter, but also a lot of trick arrows. Admittedly, the giant hammer on Thor is purely an aesthetic thing. You can't just make a giant magical hammer, but still,
yeah, well, and Thor is like powerful.
Thor's the buy. Okay, Thor's the buy out of those, but let's just.
If Thor can have a mech, so can Moon Knight.
No, Moon Knight can't have a mech.
No,
There's
Thor doesn't need a mech. Okay, like Thor like can take if he can feel the full brunt of a like exploding star. He can handle gamma radiated like.
I know he can handle. Okay, it was Thor would have been left out. He would have looked really stupid.
But Moon Knight, he's just like throwing moon crescent like batarangs or whatever.
Moon Knight wants to be in on the action so badly. Put two of. We saw Red Guardian has a buddy in the mech. Let's give someone else a buddy.
Maybe Layla. Maybe Mark and Layla could have been, on that mech. Yeah.
Technically, Bucky doesn't need a mech. Okay, Bucky could be in Sam's mech.
True.
This is what I'm saying. Okay. Anyways, the point being, already the mech premise is beginning to lose its I think its cohesiveness as we go forward, and then we're just seeing a lot of generic robot battles, which aren't really like exciting robot battles until we get to the third act when they all combine and they can do cool mech stuff together.
Yeah, honestly, if they wanted to have the superheroes do mech stuff, like they could have just said, "Hey, what if there's a world where like we all like mechs were like as common as superheroes, and just like." Superheroes have mechs, soldiers have mechs, like that. You could have done that, but yeah, honestly,
the most glaring issue we should mention, by the way, is hey, maybe we should see the Gamma War. Maybe we should see the dire circumstance. Maybe
we have a limited budget and a limited runtime. There can only be so much.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, so I mean, I do like that it all boils down to Sam just kind of talking to Bruce Banner. Admittedly, though, I hate that. As I'm saying, look, I don't want to. We're spending a little too much time on this one. This is it's kind of broad stroke a little bit here. I think making Sam stubborn, where like Monica's making the very valid point that we could use help. Why don't you talk to Bruce? It's been forever since you talked. I think he obviously had something to do with this. We should talk to him. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, no. It's like, Sam, why are you saying no? And then ultimately he does, and that kind of leads to the solution. When then it boils down to the really nice payoff, where okay, he kind of reaches out to the giant, enormous, Hulk, Gamma Hulk, which I do love the bomb move, by the way. I love that he basically that's a cool like Bruce Banner mode where he's like in like the bomb that's being dropped. Like if you're gonna turn him into a giant like abomination-esque mutant, like that's how you do that.
He puts the bomb in abomination.
There you go. And also, I have this doesn't help, but I mean, look, mechs I think are kind of can be a bit of a, well, even so, I'm iffy on the kaiju battles. I think we're doing them all over the place these days. I just don't, I don't know. I'm iffy on the kaiju battles, but it's a mech episode, so I get we kind of need that, but we're doing a lot of them here.
A lot of kaiju battles, like what? I don't.
A lot of giant battles. We're battling a giant thing. We have a giant like kaiju-sized, like monstrosity. I'm seeing them all over the place. It's just getting a little old.
You don't like when thing gets big and big thing fights or does damage.
I liked it the first time. It's just,
man, you would not have. Come on, don't you watch Power Rangers? Didn't you grow up with Power Rangers to a certain extent?
I'm not saying it's not on brand for what they're doing here. I'm just saying it's like it doesn't feel like, hey, our first what if back. Let's do this radical new idea. Kaiju mech battle. Is the kaiju at least cool looking? No, not at all.
Yeah, the kaijus could have had a little bit more, especially with like gamma radiation. Like you can have opportunities to do a lot of like.
By Hulk standards, this was lame.
You could do a lot of horror inspired designs and
Could have, didn't.
yeah, no. And also
Yeah.
like with the like if you gone for a different animated style that's like a little bit more like cut and loose, like the mech Hydra fights would have had so much more bounce to them.
Yeah. Anyway, so Sam reflected in the Hulk's eye. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The whole thing of like, I know he's your friend, Sam. He still is. That's pretty nice. Okay, so episode 1, very much a rocky start. Let's go to episode 2. Let's perk things up a little here. Let's go Hollywood. What if Agatha went to Hollywood?
Yeah, for this episode, I really appreciate the commitment to the overall aesthetic and tone. It's like it's all Hollywood. It's doing musical numbers. You got a little Bollywood involved in there, but it's still it still utilizes sort of, especially a lot of Eternals, backstory and mythology with this
It
lesson.
feels like we're saddled with the Eternals here. It feels like it couldn't have been for nothing. We have to make it count.
I mean, I think the Eternal. I mean, I think Kingo is like.
I don't mean just this. I mean this season because we had like a couple of Eternals episodes where mainly I think the only saving grace is that
we've had 2.
Yeah,
which is 25%. It's not insignificant, but it's not a lot.
Fair point. I guess what I'm getting at is between that and I think the main saving grace, the main
is it because they're just big? Are you just
no,
big things?
No, I'm trying to say something. I think between that, but I think the only like the faint pulse that the Eternals has right now is purely dependent on the fact that it looks like in the new Captain America movie we're going to address the giant hand in the ocean. That's the main and only reason it feels like the Eternals has somewhat of a pulse right now. And it's like we're kind of saddled with the Eternals was we got to do some of these Eternals characters. The only thing we can really do all the time is like Kingo is throughout history, so Kingo's like the only sustainable Eternals member. And obviously we're going to supplant the Eternals with the proper giant character Galactus. So that's until then we're kind of stuck with Arisham. So.
Well, also we are Icarus is coming back in Marvel Zombie, so
he is.
Yes,
I forgot that he was coming back in Marvel Zombies.
Yeah, he has a
very. They keep pushing back Marvel Zombies and everything. Who can tell? But okay,
so it's coming out October this year.
Hopefully,
hopefully. No, it is. It's been put. The date's been set. So like you're gonna experience some Eternals love, my friend.
But he's barely. I don't even think he should count as a zombie because he's technically a space robot. But
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, technically, we can call it out in this episode. Technically, he's a space robot, so I don't think he would really even count.
As what?
As I don't think he can be. Can he even become a zombie? That's the real question.
I mean, it's not even.
Or is he fighting? Is he basically the idea he's fighting the zombies?
I think he has I think he's infected.
That's what I'm saying. How can he be infected? He's a space robot.
I mean,
it's a nigh invulnerable space robot, even at that.
But it's not a traditional zombie virus. It's a zombie virus in the quantum realm.
Yeah, right? So that's the thing. Well, yes, Rohit, but they're kind of their word is like this is going to be kind of a rebrand of this. So I don't know if we're even going to maintain that going into this.
No, it is a specifically direct continuation from
the. I don't know. I've heard conflicting things. About
it's directly continuing on from that episode.
Okay, because I mean, even the whole Thanos thing is going to be continued then.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll address. I feel like there might be some
This is what I mean. Like the whole we had a few.
They'll address it in like an offhand comment, but because it's only 4 episodes.
Yeah,
we're all dealing with the newer characters. My assumption is that some time has passed and we're with the new Phase 4 characters and all that.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the point being, the Eternals they're kind of clinging to any hope with this. So I mean, look, as far as the Eternals go, I think this
sounds like you just want to take them out back and shoot them in the back of the head.
Look, Eternals is quite possibly the worst of the MCU films. Quite possibly.
No, it is not.
I don't know. I think it might actually be. Honestly, frankly,
it is not
my least favorite. I'll tell you that much.
There are other MCU movies worse than Eternals.
I don't know. I don't. Eternals. I think. might be the most bored I've ever been watching. It is actually the most bored I've ever been watching an MCU movie. I'll tell you that much.
All right,
Of all the
let's,
Marvels I've ever
let's,
watched, the one I've watched the least, easily the Eternals.
You watch Thor: The Dark World more than Eternals?
More than the Eternals, yeah.
Man. Thor: The Dark World is why Ragnarok was a thing, right? Like, okay, let's not look. We're going away from it, but okay, let's talk about this episode. Episode 2.
Like, so this episode. So again, I'm with you. The old Hollywood setting, great. The reunion of our Agent Carter players, loved it. We had James Darcy coming back with Dominic Cooper. Love that. That's fantastic, and their roles in this made a lot of sense.
And I appreciate like Agatha, like taking sort of the stuff we have from Agatha all along, using her abilities to try to like take power from Arishem. That's like,
it's on brand. So if we're gonna put her in an Eternal story, this does make a lot of sense.
Tiamat, correct. My correction on my part, Tiamat. And Kingo gets into the mix of it, and there's like basically like a dance off, and it's like west with Broadway and east with Bollywood, and it's a really like. I think the dance sequences are a prime example of the animation style being pushed to its like furthest limits, and it's like it's well done, but it just feels kind of soulless to a certain extent.
I like the here's the thing. I like the dance sequence. I think it goes on too long, but I did like it in concept. The fact we have a nice little kind of dance battle going on, her making fun of like the finger pistols, like that's great. I gotta be honest, in terms of style, though. I mean, I think I don't know. It might just be. It's probably just my taste. I don't know. I like the I like kind of like the chorus girl, kind of Rockette, kind of backup dancer side of it a little bit more than what Kingo's guys were doing.
I mean,
in terms of the song in terms of the dance sequence going on long, that was like we see these guys and these guys. It feels like Agatha side's putting a little more effort there. I don't know.
I feel like the Bollywood side could have had a little bit more pomp.
That's what I mean. Within the animation, it feels like, man, we're really.
Which is funny because I think that someone made I remember people making comments about for Kingo's like Bollywood sequence and Eternals, like it doesn't have as much bombast to it. Which I guess if you're seeing the sequence as it's being filmed rather than the filmed version of it. Do you get what I mean? So it might not have as much bombast, like with lighting and all that, but that's neither here nor there. I just really appreciate like the dynamic between Kingo and Agatha. These are two characters that don't operate in the same worlds, and that's really the fun of What If is seeing these two characters interact, and especially in a period setting and like Dominic Cooper doing his like best like Howard Hughes impression through his take on Howard Stark here is really fun, really great.
Oh yeah. So here's something. Here's again, we'll give credit to here. Again, this episode I think far surpasses Eternals in this aspect, where we actually fight Arishem. We kind of turn we turn Agatha into kind of the cosmic queen kind of thing, and she she actually kicks the crap out of Arishem.
Yeah, and
so we actually did something there. We actually had the big threat, and we actually did something with it.
I think overall for this episode, as compared to the first episode, the second episode sticks to its like genre homage. Whereas for the first episode, it's like it just goes for the aesthetic of a mech thing, but doesn't go the full, like 9 yards.
There you go.
So
all right. So it's episode 2 there for you. Okay, episode 3. Oh, here we go. Now we're actually cooking with gas here. Okay, what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier? So let's just say 3 and 4 are easily my favorites of the season. From what I understand, at least the way it was kind of, maybe this isn't the case, but at least the way they dropped like the scene from this episode, which I think implies this was the episode. Basically, one of the episodes got held over for season 3, and I'm pretty sure this was the episode that was held over. I could be wrong, but I think it was.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was, especially with the way like because if this had come out when the second season came out, like
Bill Foster.
yeah, yeah. Also, like we had Bucky in Falcon and Winter Soldier the year before, like 2 years before,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as Black Widow. So it would have been like, oh, we followed with these characters like 2 years, But no, I think for this episode with the whole dynamic presence, it's like that I with what Bucky was how he was characterized in this episode. I feel like people will be of two minds of it. One, they might not like that, like he's not as much in his Winter Soldier,
There was a
attitude.
reason for it, though, and they mentioned in the episode.
I'm trying to remember the exact. Can you refresh my memory?
Okay, so essentially, it's twofold. Okay, so the reason he is like they can get away with him acting the way he is in the episode is that one, Winter Soldier hasn't been off ice this long. And two, going along with that is the whole, the whole. Remember, I had like the scene with the fast food place where it has like his deep cover program, where essentially, he's a lot more personable because Red Guardian just keeps screwing things up tremendously.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, I think it's more so the former. I think it's just basically he has never been off ice, which it gives him the opportunity. Like for example, Winter Soldier, again, he's facing ordinarily this guy's he's taken off ice, does the mission, they freeze him up again. That's usually how it goes. And him going up against Steve Rogers was the longest at that point. He had been off ice. That then leads to Civil War, and we saw him kind of adjusting and everything after he's kind of shaking the programming off. So it's kind of how it works with him. We've seen that.
No. I think because it doesn't feel like a lot of time as passes like in this episode. Like,
Well, no, I'm not saying like that, like an amount of time like that. I'm saying like off mission. He's going, the thing. So he's like he's off the mission. He's having an encounter with somebody. So he's able,
he doesn't have like a central directive on his
yeah,
mind.
where he doesn't. That it's like not the literal amount of time. It's like the amount of time that he's doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have like the assigned task or like the mission's essentially over and he hasn't been put back on ice yet. That kind of thing.
Okay, yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I see. Yeah, no, I think for this episode, it's like it's kind of like a fun action comedy sort of deal, especially with like
it's planes, trains, and automobiles with superheroes.
Yeah, and then you have like Bill Foster, coming to the picture as like a Shield agent, and it's like it's interesting to see him play kind of like the Tommy Lee Jones of it all, like the law enforcement authority that's on the hunt for like our heroes.
He's kind of the Yaphet Kotto from Midnight Run, kind of. Kind of.
Yeah, and interesting to see America Ferrera just be this random park ranger that just tags along with Bill Foster.
Like, I'm not crazy. She's not at all from the comics, right? You can recognize her.
No. She's an OC.
I do love me some American Ferrera, so she was it was fun. It was fun to have her too. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, this episode could be something that like could have been extended as like a fun like animated movie. That's like just you go in and have a cool adventure and honestly, with the twist of the episode, like who is the source of is being Obadiah Stane. It's
brilliant.
It's good. My issue though for Obadiah Stane is that he looks closer to how he looks in Iron Man.
I know he should have the hair. I know.
Yeah, because he just like it's a 17-year difference. So,
well, I mean, there was more. The gray, the beard was not gray. That's the difference, though.
Yeah, no, and
the hair thing. I think technically we saw him in like some in the opening montage of Iron Man. I think we saw some Obadiah with hair stuff, but I'm not like in the they have like the he's getting the lifetime. He's getting the award, and we saw like the little montage.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's a buy, and there's a chance maybe in that time frame at that point he he shaved the head or something. I don't know. That's an easy buy you can make. Come on. Plus, we kill him off anyway, so what's the point? What does it matter?
It does make interesting implications for the canon of the traditional MCU, because like
I know the ending of the episode doesn't technically make any sense, but it's such a uplifting moment for Red Guardian. Let's just let him have it, Rohith.
No. I'm talking about like Obadiah Stane being the one to like have like gone the stars to be killed.
It makes sense, and it does. You can absolutely fold that into what happens. There's nothing to contradict it, so I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if that's ever going to be explored, like an Ironheart or something like that. I can't imagine it would.
The Riri story is going to be hers alone. I don't think the most we're going to get is War Machine, if anything. We're
Well,
not
no,
going to.
well, like Ezekiel Stain is in that show.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's played by Alden Henrik.
Oh, right. Oh, that's who Aaron Reich. That's who Aaron Reich's playing.
Alden Henrik. Who's Aaron? Oh, Aaron Reich. Oh, but yes, that's him. Yeah, he's playing Ezekiel Stain.
Yeah, I completely forgot. It's been forever since they announced it. I forgot that that's who he's playing. Wow. Okay, you're right. Maybe we will explore that.
Yeah, because originally when him and Antonio Ramos was cast, it's like people were speculating which of the two would be Ezekiel Stain, and then which of the other could have been like the Hood, or honestly, either like if it was the other way around, I would have bought it as just the same. So, yeah.
Wait, is the Hood supposed to be in that one?
Yeah, he's played by Antonio Ramos.
I think it's Ramos. Is he the one from Good Girls?
No, Antonio Ramos is the lead in Into the Heights, and he plays. Have you've seen Hamilton, right, on Disney Plus?
I did. Who is he playing Hamilton?
He plays the son.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Okay. Well, either way, all right. It's gonna be interesting.
Oh, and you see Transformers: Rise of the Beast, right?
No.
Okay, he plays the human male lead in that.
Okay. Okay. Anyway.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Piranha. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right, so he's playing the Hood. He's playing Parker Robbins.
Correct.
Well, is it Parker Robbins or do we?
Yeah, it's just Parker Robbins. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I would have cast the. I'm surprised. For me, I would have given that to the guy from Good Girls who's going to be in. I'm blanking on his name, but the act. I know his character's name from Good Girls. I know
something Montana.
I know. Yeah, Manny Montana. That's who he is. Manny.
He's in the show. I think he's playing just a member of the Hood's crew.
That's the thing. I think he would have made a really good Hood, but then we'll see what this Ramos kid's doing. Maybe he'll be good. I don't know. Anyway, so point being, this episode again, I love it. I love me one again. Love Falcon. I love not only there's Falcon the Winter Soldier, but I love the more specifically Captain America the Winter Soldiers. Every time we do something like this with Bucky, it's great. But more so, I love Red Guardian, and I love the idea Red Guardian has an obsession with Captain America and like an admiration for him. And with that in mind, he always had that line where he's convinced he's fought Captain America, where chances are it's all bluster, but he seems rather convinced that some people wonder if maybe he's had other encounters. So obviously this is not a direct answer to that, but it's kind of fun giving him an opportunity like this where he's going up against the Winter Soldier.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun, and it's my favorite type of what if, where again there's a direct logical aftermath of a choice. Where here it's like what if we stop the murder of the Starks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is great. And again, we love how we kind of frame the episode there, and we have like the whole we're kind of in the middle of it, and then we rewind the tape essentially. We see okay what happened there, and just doing this whole planes, trains, and automobiles thing is just a lot of fun. I love that right off the get-go, Red Guardian, he rejects essentially the opening of the Black Widow movie, just saying no. And I love that Natasha is like there's a little picture of Dreykov and Natasha Romanoff on the desk.
Yeah,
just really creepy and funny. Again, I just love that Red Guardian is jealous of the Winter Soldier because he's not even a real Russian.
And here's the thing that's kind of a little not messy but interesting. It's like the Winter Soldier in 616 MCU is under the employ of Hydra.
Yes, and that's true here. It's a co-op.
So Hydra and the Red Room.
Now go on.
They're aware of each other and are just sharing resources and assets.
That's what's happening here. Now, in terms of the logistics of why that's happening, I can't tell you, but essentially the idea is the Rook he's given information to Hydra in the hopes that they will kill the Starks. That's essentially what it's going. So this operation went through Hydra and the Red, I guess by proxy, the Red Room. So I guess the Red Room and Hydra, either for the purposes of the what if, are working together on this. That's again mainline continuity. It is Hydra.
But the thing is that's a kind of little like that, which makes me ask more questions. Like Hydra's whole thing was that they've been underground and secret throughout the entire 20th century. And
so they might be doing it through the Red Room though.
Yeah, I just think it's like the thing is here's the thing, we have a specific idea of what a Hydra is as an organization, its ideology, all that stuff. And whereas for the Red Room, they just seem like just some offshoot of like the KGB or like Russian intelligence that like just does like mercenary jobs or whatever. And I just don't know like why Hydra, for how it's specifically structured organization, would ever think to work with someone with an organization like the Red Room and vice versa, right?
Well, again, for this one, that's more of a purposes of the what if. Or mainline continuity, it's probably not the case. I'm saying for this, that's probably what I don't know. I guess that's what's happening here.
Because the thing is, if the MCU was following more, had adapted more of the comics, backstory for the Winter Soldier, this would make sense, like this episode. But the fact that this episode, it's following going off to the MCU, and the MCU specifically has the Winter Soldier be an agent of Hydra, not an agent of the Russians, like.
Well, the other thing to bear in mind is that I could be wrong here, but isn't the so the command code for the Winter Soldier is in Russian, right?
I mean, I don't.
I'm pretty sure it's Russian because in the
It's
comic it
Russian,
was.
some Eastern European language.
Well, that's it's in Eastern European language. I have a feeling that it's Russian, but I could be. Maybe you're right. Regardless, they'll take. Yep.
Because the thing is, it's like because Hydra is like all over the world. It's not just the U.S. Like, yeah, it has like a big influence in like the U.S. government and its institutions, but like Hydra having a base in Siberia or whatever, it's like my understanding was that Hydra just had its tentacles in like all major like institutions, intelligence agencies. So if it was Russian, it's like I imagine there's Hydra people embedded in the Russian government or the Soviet Union at the time.
I mean, there's another possibility. Now, mind you, I wish I did research into this, so I could be wrong. But let's just say, if memory, there is a chance that the Red Room was an offshoot of Hydra. There's a chance of that. And I bring that up because in the Agent Carter, we did have the whole thing where we did explore the early essence of the Red Room, and I'm trying to remember if there was like if there might have been a direct correlation to Hydra in that or not. I don't remember. I could be. That's an. I wouldn't bet on that one. I just don't know. I'm saying there's a possibility there that
The
maybe
Red Room
there's.
seemed like it's like a secret, Russian,
Yeah.
Soviet, like former Soviet Union thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any relations or like that's the thing. It's like a lot of MCU movies have like secret, shadowy government agencies or societies. And it's like, all right, like how do y'all try to make sense of like who controls who and like, oh, they took over the entire world. It was like how many organizations, societies have taken over the world? At that point, you haven't really taken over the world. You're just sharing like corners of the world with other people.
Look, I think we're getting hung up on semantics here. But again, another thing might be just against the. I don't know, throw it out there is that just taking it at face value. Natasha Romanoff said that the Winter Soldier is like a ghost story, but clearly she's had an interaction with him, which kind of proved that okay, so he basically the lore is that he's a ghost story, but she had an actual encounter with him. So the logic would be okay, and her kind of going back to her masters on that one, like that's maybe how they found out. Maybe over the years, they kind of went from there, or maybe they knew it could be a chain of command thing. The point being, I think the Red Room found out about Hydra one way or another, and the plus again, if he didn't end up in Siberia, like when he fell from the train, I'm trying to remember like where did the train thing happen in First Avenger? Like where did he fall?
It was in the Swiss Alps.
Okay, it was the Swiss Alps. Okay, so it was the Swiss Alps. So again, that means that's in Captain America Civil War, we go to Siberia, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, that thing. So it seems like that was like his home base where he was like taking at least. It seems like he was. That's where we had all the other Winter Soldiers there, but we did see he was kind of like trained there, and he was there training the other ones and all that.
Well,
kind
no,
of
because
stuff.
it's like the Russians, like Russian soldiers, find him and take.
No. I mean, he was training the other Winter Soldiers in that, the other ones that we had.
Yeah, but the Winter Soldier is like a Hydra program. It's not like It's not like it'd be one thing if it was like a joint op or it's like a Hydra program for like Russia Hydra or the Eastern European Hydra and like Western Europe Hydra or whatever had like their own separate project or something like that. But
Okay, anyway, again, whether it's maybe there's like a layer of mainland continuity we just never really connected with the dots with those two or not, or if it's just like just something for the sake of the what if. The point being, we have the two organizations that call out, the Winter Soldier, he's not even a real Russian. Which either way, even just taking that line at face value, he's like, he's not Russian at all. Why are we using this guy? It's possible. I don't know. Either way, I just love the jealousy there of like the act, the fact that we have like Russia's version of a Captain America. And I like that we dig into that in this episode where Alexei, he came from, again, he had his own version of a Steve Rogers kind of path into becoming Red Guardian. In this case, though, it's very inspired by Cap, where he came from simple people and he wanted to represent the best of his country. So he's a patriot, he's a Russian patriot, and we kind of reflect that and there's a real likability to Alexei here. As stupid as he is, it's bluster, but again, it's coming from a good place. He does believe in his system, to the nth degree, which I think is kind of a good characteristic for him to have. A lot of people run hot and cold Red Guardian. I like him. I love the idea of just this guy who has such admiration for Cap. By the same token, and again, he is that symbol for his nation, but there's so much ego with the guy, which undercuts him.
Yeah, the Red Guardian is always a fun time,
and David Harbour plays him a really fun way too.
Yeah, and him and Sebastian Stan as Bucky, they have a good dynamic together. And this is kind of the thing where it's like, it's not a what if episode where it's like, oh, what if there's like big seismic changes. This is kind of more the fun romp of what if, which is I think once in a while it's not bad to have like episodes like that.
Yeah. So basically, we're on our way. So because the mission has been screwed up by Red Guardian, he basically wanted to prove to Dreykov that he was valuable, and he wanted again the fact that we show that Red Guardian. What's really nice here is deep down we show that he wants to be Captain America in the sense of I don't want to just be a hired killer. I want to kill for my nation in broad daylight. Again, he's very counterintuitive to what the Winter Soldier is all about. So he's very much botching the mission on principle in terms of no, he can tell the message to his capitalist pig friends. Which is again, he's completely missing the whole no witnesses, kind of principle of what the operation is there, and they end up getting away with far less than they were supposed to, and just it's a mission failure, and Winter Soldier's kind of in a tailspin here of I never fail a mission. What do I do now? I love the phone gag, by the way. The whole where's the X9? Did they skip the X9? It's a lot of fun. Anyway, so the two of these guys reluctantly, kind of pair up together, and again, a little bit of Thunderbolts kind of foreshadowing going on here with Alexei and the big red car. We have the traffic stop. We have with Bill Foster on the scene there, him paired up with the Ranger Morales, and again, I love the steering wheel move when they're into it. They had a lot of fun car chases. Again, the action's really fun. The comedy's good. There's also we hit the heart though. We have kind of our John Wick-esque moment where they're at the vet kind of patching themselves up, and they get a chat in here and they about their backstories. And again, this is what I love, that the Winter Soldier is kind of woken from his program again, being off ice for at least enough time to have a conversation with somebody, and the guy says well, close your eyes, what do you think back, think deeply, and he thinks about Coney Island, which is a great nod to him and Steve Rogers going to Coney Island when they were kids. Honestly, it's one of the last things they talked about before he went in the ice, before Cap went in the ice, before he fell off the train.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the throwing up a Coney Island. So yeah, we go to Vegas and we have Obadiah Stane revealed to be the Rook. Just again, flawless logic there. I love that it's also kind of a nod to the Big Lebowski with what he's drinking, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, the White Russian.
I think he's got the White Russian.
Oh man, I should have clocked that.
And he's in a robe too. That's the thing. He's in a robe. He's drinking the White Russian.
All he needs is a bowling ball, and we're set.
I think he needs the hair too, but yeah.
Well, that's like your opinion, man.
Anyway, so we kill Obadiah Stane, which that begs the question. So Iron Man's origin is now very drastically altered by the events of this episode. How do we get Iron Man by the very end of the episode? But again, that's more of a we don't care kind of a thing.
Maybe Tony, just by being raised by like a more involved caregiver, he grows up to be a more engaged and less narcissistic person, and becomes Iron Man through his choice rather than through tragic circumstances.
I mean, that's the thing. We do have an arc reactor either way because it was built to shut the hippies up, and while Howard Stark was alive, so I mean, we do have an arc reactor. It's just a question of what motivates Tony Stark to build it, but let's not get bogged down there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I mean, terrorists would still probably be after Howard Stark, so in another way,
It's a canon event for Tony Stark to be taken hostage and have something stuck up in his chest.
Well, man, it's kind of creepy when you put it like that. But I was thinking more like maybe Howard Stark. Hydra could always just send. Again, honestly, in all honesty, what probably happened is just Howard Stark still ends up killed by the Winter Soldier. It's a different occasion. Oh, it's dark. But that's probably what happens.
And
just the 10 rings, like just
not just Howard, but
Mandarin did
also
it this
Maria
time.
Stark. It's both the Starks are killed.
Yeah.
And it's just they're just driving home, and after they're and
why does it happen the same way?
As this is occurring, Tony Stark is just like dreaming about what his spring break looks like, and his parents are just lying in the cold confines of death.
All right, come on, we gotta bum everyone out, Rohith. Come on.
That's the truth. I'm not trying. That's what would be happening.
Okay, what's really funny though with Obadiah Stane's, what happens to him? I love that just Redguard was just beside himself, learning that I'm working for capitalist pig. He's just he's having this existential crisis on the couch. Just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And again, really nice that he refused to kill Red Guardian, and because of the little mental exercise with Alexei, he was able to kind of combat like the programming, which is a real win for the Winter Soldier. I thought what really touched me with it is that in some unconventional way, in a way, Cap again, it's kind of Cap's and it's the actual Captain America's influence in some way, shape, or form, I guess, by a second cousin, if you will, that does kind of bring Bucky back. So it's kind of fated that Cap is going to snap Bucky out of it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we award. It's really nice that we reward Alexei after everything here. Of course, the whole Bob Toledo gym coach thing's pretty funny, but we make him an Avenger, and I was so giddy just seeing like him during the Avengers big circle moment, and just him side by side with Captain America. I love that he's between Cap and he's between Black Widow, which again, logistics of he didn't raise this Black Widow and Iron Man, who the heck knows? But again, just the image itself is adorable.
I like the Alexei's undercover persona as him being like a gym teacher.
Yeah.
He would be a merciless gym teacher.
Oh, we saw he was a merciless gym teacher. What are you talking about?
No. What I meant to say is like that's probably on a day where he's going easy on those kids.
Oh,
considering how much bloodlust he had over like Natasha and Yelena's story careers as assassins. Like, man, this you either make warriors out of hell or you have them be burned.
Okay. So that brings us to my other favorite episode of the season, episode 4. What if Howard the Duck got hitched?
Man, the discourse around this episode in particular was just so disheartening. People didn't really just engage.
Really? No one just collectively loved this one? Really?
No, people
seriously, were... honestly, here's the thing. As much as I love the Red Guardian episode, just fundamentally because of my interest, I really did think the Howard the Duck episode might have legitimately been the best one of the season, frankly.
Man, no, people were just like, oh, like this is how far Marvel, like they use like Howard and Darcy having a kid. It's like, oh, this is like how far the MCU has fallen, and blah blah blah.
Oh,
And it's like,
they missed the point entirely of this one.
well, I mean, it's like, what if is like while there's premise, well, like I think people are obsessed with the idea of what if being like the show where like, oh, if this thing happens one way, it leads to bad stuff happening, and it's all dystopic, like sad, tragic things, and that happens once in a while. But like a lot of what if stories is just goofy premises. Like
That's the fun. That's the fun of what if's all about. Sometimes you have the dramatic, you have the intriguing, also you have the hysterical.
yeah, and this was a really fun episode. My really only big downside is that instead of Jeff Goldblum returning to play the Grandmaster, they have this like guy named Matt Nevin who's like an impressionist, and I can say this with a certain high degree of confidence. Don't let people who do voice impressions do voice acting.
Boy, that was Jeff Goldblum though.
No, it wasn't Jeff
Wait,
Goldblum.
really? But he's always voiced him before.
No,
Why
he
wouldn't
didn't
he?
voice him for this one. That's where I felt like, oh, this sounds bad, and I saw
Oh
the
man,
credits. It's yeah, no, I felt like his performance as the Grandmaster was just really grating. It just didn't feel like he was voice act. He was doing like the extended Jeff Goldblum bit, but like Jeff Goldblum when he's doing the Grandmaster just is acting. He has
yes.
his like Goldblumisms, but they're not like hiding in that role
Yeah,
as
he
much.
must be. I wonder if it's a budgetary thing or is Goldblum's mad that Disney Plus canceled his show.
It's probably the former versus the latter.
Oh yeah. That was literally his like name was in the title and everything. I mean, if it was a little personal. But...
After the writers and actors strike, a lot of belt tightening, which on one hand, for actors who get on projects, are going to be paid well, but on the other hand, there's probably not going to be a lot of projects going around. So
Okay. All right. So yeah. So this is to me this was the funny highlight of season 3. I mean, I think it's a sequel to the Party Thor episode that easily surpassed the Party Thor episode. Nothing against it. I just think it easily surpassed it. Like, this was even better. This was yeah, honestly I think what I really liked about this episode is that it's a taste of what the because I remember I was really excited for this and I was really sad they canceled it. There was going to be Kevin Smith was going to show run a Howard the Duck TV show, an animated Howard the Duck show.
mm-hmm.
Now I'm not saying it's going to be MCU Howard the Duck, it's just going to be a Howard the Duck show because this is like they're doing the MODOK show and the Howard the Duck show and there's talk
And
like
Monkey.
no yeah the Hit Monkey thing. I keep meaning to watch season 2 of that because it is out. But yeah, this first season that was really good. Anyway, yeah, and they were all supposed to cross over for Man Thing. That was what the plan was. Anywho, this is kind of a taste of what a Howard the Duck show could be, and I love it. Honestly, I've been championing like yes, more Howard the Duck. I mean, James Gunn put him in all 3 of the movies. Every time he shows up in What If, I think he's been great. And just giving him more to do is a great idea. And Seth Green, wonderful casting for Howard the Duck. I love it. I'm down for this. Is a version of Howard the Duck I think people would really get behind and really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think he's great, and I think he makes a really cute couple with Darcy. I think he has a good foil in Darcy Lewis, and I just love kind of.
Have you seen Ted on Peacock?
Yes.
Okay, imagine the Howard the Duck show where like everything else is like it's in MCU, it's live action. You have like CG Howard the Duck, and him and Darcy are like a romantic pairing. That would have been that. Oh, man.
So I mean, think about this, okay? We've taken the most infamous component of Howard the Duck and we've ran with it, and and again, like we end up with an episode that is so like it's such a great example of being in the tone of Howard the Duck, like the comic of Howard the Duck. Because this episode just feels very just well representative of that character, and I love that we've taken like the worst part of the movie, or at least one of the worst received parts of that movie, and we've kind of ran with it. And we've actually improved it in the way in which we've done the MCU. That's crazy to me, and that's fantastic. And everyone wants their egg. It's such a silly, farcical episode, but again we can get away with that, and it feels just that's what Howard the Duck would do in a comic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just feels great. I'm with you. This absolutely could endure as a show or as a premise. This is the spin-off I want, frankly. I want Howard the Duck in the MCU, just kind of messing about or reacting to it. Because I've
No,
pitched this.
or have Howard the Duck as like a private investigator, because then he can just explore all the different avenues. I mean, he could also it could also be like a traditional like raising a kid comedy sort of team. What
Mhm.
have you? I think it's just with the level of like comedic uh extrapolations with like all the people being involved. It I would have kind of appreciated if there were some MC heroes in this episode just to see kind of their dynamic with Howard the Duck, because Howard the Duck doesn't really get to interact with like a lot of the MCU outside this episode.
You know what's really wonderful though, as bittersweet as it is still wonderful that Chadwick Boseman, God bless him, he was able to play a scene with Howard the Duck.
Oh really?
Yeah, remember?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
he
Yeah.
had a scene with Howard the Duck. So I mean, God bless him. He had and technically he shares. I think technically he shares a screen with him twice. One in live action, mind you, they're not right next to each other, but you know, Howard the Duck did show up in Endgame. He is there. He is summoned.
Man,
And and Black Panther is there. So Chadwick Boseman,
Duck
in a
Duck
sense, he shared the screen with him twice in
Duck and
animation
Panther.
and in live action, in quotes.
Man, a buddy cop comedy that's titled Duck and Panther, or Panther and Duck.
Yep.
That would be something.
No, but seriously, it's just Howard the Duck is just a character that I think Plus, I mean, imagine this: Deadpool meeting Howard the Duck. I mean, there's something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point being, Howard the Duck's a lot of fun, and we have I don't think we've dropped the ball with him at all in the MC, which is the testament to like the confidence of Feige and company. We're like, yeah, we can do Howard the Duck. So,
I
yep,
what is the? I'm trying to remember the name of the song that Howard and Darcy sing
yeah,
together.
it's the Kiss song. I was made for loving you, baby.
Yes, it. If you told me that was a thing in this episode, I feel like some people would have been eye rolled. That's like, oh, this is just Marvel doing their needle, or like generic, IP doing like a needle drop or whatever, and like pop culture reference. And this is like all like at the heart of it, it's a very like touching, like
It's a
romance.
romantic, kind of romantic. It's
It's a rom com turn. Like it's like yeah, like the whole like oh we need our baby, we're parents like going on a cruise and all that stuff. It's like oh, this is just like this isn't stuff that you typically get in like the MCU. Like it's even the more comedic MCU properties don't really get, especially anime. Like anime doesn't get into like hijinks like this.
no, he just gets sent to the quantum realm.
Maybe Howard the Duck would have come along. It would have been a more engaging movie.
I agree.
Imagine Howard the Duck beats Kang and becomes the big bad of the Multiverse Saga. Howard the Conqueror.
Oh my god.
You're not saying no to the idea.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, we defeated Kang with ants, so I mean,
Hey man, ducks are a different beast altogether.
that's what I mean. I'm just saying, if we defeat him with ants, I mean, surely Howard the Duck could, he could take Kang's spot, no problem.
Could he take on Doctor Doom?
Okay, that's the Squirrel Girl could take out Doctor Doom.
I mean,
Can't tell me I'm wrong on that one.
well, in the comics, maybe not. But
No, in the comics, yes.
no, in the comics, yeah. No, so in the comics, yes, but in the MCU, maybe not. But I mean, it would be funny if like Squirrel Girl is the one that helps like not only stop beat God and Burn Doom, but helps to bring back the Marvel like universe in like its proper form with the X-Men and Fantastic Four like inserted in. Squirrel Girl would automatically be like the savior of Marvel humanity.
Yeah.
But that's either here nor there.
Okay, the point being, so we have the Grandmaster as his cruise invite. almost turns the egg into breakfast, and Yondu's like grabbing the egg, and it's just this hilarious, just like comedy of error, like this cavalcade of comedy that's going on here. So we have like Yondu's grabbing the egg, he's killed by Caecilius and his minions, who have presumably killed the Collector.
Mm-hmm. Dark elves are coming to the picture.
Fury and Shield, they're seeking the egg, but as a weapon, and very shady Fury moment, where he wants to take. I love this. This is what I'm talking about. They know how to write Howard the Duck. Howard's smart enough to zoom in and kind of suss out that okay, Fury's doing something shady. Why are they whispering? Then you got to be again kind of tantamount to the whole like Joe Bozeman thing here, where it's like on the flip side you have Samuel L. Jackson saying the Ducks. Like that's, and also he's going to say Fury out, but let's taking one at a time there. Just the Ducks. God, I was laughing so hard at that.
It's like a Spider-Man, don't forget the hyphen. And for Howard, when he's introduced, is Howard Duck? Like, no, it's Howard the Duck. Don't forget the.
Yeah. Anyway, so Loki turning Jotunheim into a ski resort, essentially, like a luxury resort and casino, and it's basically a Shangri-La for Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
There's some fun Tom Hiddleston gags here. The whole thing of well, there goes your inheritance, all of it.
I love Frost Giant Loki being.
Yeah.
It's a nice contrast to how Loki's typically portrayed by in proper MCU.
And we did get a peek at him in the Loki show too. Goes by real quick. I don't think it's one for one, but I think we did see the Frost Giant Loki, at least a variant of the Frost Giant Loki.
I might have to rewatch.
Well, no, not in person. We saw him like on a little like a little holographic readout, like all the Loki.
Oh, I got okay.
So I think that I forget if we had like the big ice antlers or not. Because if we didn't, then it was just like we kind of measure up a little bit. Maybe it's him without the thing. I'm drifting off focus here. So all this chaos. My favorite gag in the whole thing, though. Okay, all this is chaos is going. We bumped into the children of Thanos, who then call up Thanos, and you have Josh Brolin popping in, saying, "Wait, is it the stones?" She's like, "Wait, you summoned me here for an egg?" I laughed so hard at just the oh my god, just oh, it's priceless. Anyway, all this is unfolding. They're singing the song. The baby has all this untapped potential, all this power, and the baby saves them, and the baby hatches, and it's a little birdie. Ain't that cute?
Yeah, with blue wings. That's what it looks like, but
yeah.
No, it's a really like episode 3. It's a very fun romp, and I think it's certainly the humor. It's kind of one of the even though I won't necessarily revisit What If in its entirety, probably in the future, but this is an episode that I will definitely pop up and watch with a friend and just enjoy sort of the comedic hijinks of it all.
Yep. All right, episode 4. Sorry. We've now finished episode 4, so episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
What if the emergence destroyed the Earth? Okay, this was another lackluster one for me. I got to tell you that.
Really, I'll be honest with you. Like the first,
I think it had potential. I think it could have been good. And I don't think it's not as bad as the mech one.
I think for me, the first 3 episodes are the weakest generally, with the 3rd episode being the strongest of the weakest. Or I would probably say the Agatha episode, but you and I probably have different opinions on Eternal, so that's where our mileage can vary. I think this episode I really like, with what happens with the emergence, I would not expect this particular scenario to have occurred, but I kind of appreciate sort of the desperation on the part of Riri Williams to go up against the mystery of it all, and having especially White Vision in the mix, I think was certainly interesting. I think I kind of like the idea, the world, and sort of the status quo of it all. The actual story itself, I probably like a little bit more than you, but I can certainly see where maybe it didn't go up to where you're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest. This one, I just kind of found myself kind of checked out of this one, and a lot of things just didn't come together for me. Oddly, in the episode where the Earth came apart, it's just it's just sorry, I'm just trying to I don't want to just I guess it's the plainly say I think it's the most boring episode, and I'll tell you why. It's a again, I already went over my Eternals points. I'm not gonna dwell on that. So one, it kind of deflates the stakes of the Eternals. Like, well, the Earth's still going to survive, it's just broken into pieces, which it's not good. I didn't even know that was an option. I don't even know how believable that is. But I'm not going to dwell on that. That's neither here nor there. But let's just honestly, it feels like, why does the emergence even need to happen for this for this plan to succeed? It just feels like we need an apocalypse of some kind. But okay, again, we're just trying. It feels like we just threw we threw the Eternals and the Emergence just out there because again we needed to amount to something. But again, I'm trying not to. I don't want to bag on there. Riri Williams, she's on display here. It feels like because she has the upcoming series happening. It's the main reason it feels like we have Riri Williams here, and she's an interesting character. But I don't think this is the most layered material for her. And that I felt kind of really held the episode back, where it feels like we just kind of dropped Riri Williams into a generic plot. And this episode is founded on the premise that Riri Williams is really special, really important, and she could actually save the day, in which I don't really see much evidence to the contrary there.
See, this is kind of this is kind of one of the episodes where it's like I wish we got to see the show because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the decisions made with these characters and in this show would have some level of resonance or clever contrast depending upon what happens in like the traditional MCU projects. Because I think with how maybe Sam interacts with like President Ross and like how Riri gets to sort of you know make do with being sort of a scrappy kind of a superhero in Chicago. I think this episode maybe would have made a little bit more, oomph to you because you have some level idea of like Riri as a character, and we did get a sense of her personality in like Wakanda Forever, but we don't really get a sense of who she is like on a fundamental level. For me, I think like Riri was interesting in the sense that like I said, she's a scrappy character, but I think the overall kind of like level of doom on that's being expressed by Uatu, it's like, oh, this like I didn't get the fact that he's special. I feel like with how Uatu was viewing was like this is a shadow of tragedy. It's like regardless of whatever Riri does, she would just lose. And it almost felt like that Uatu was just kind of viewing, Riri as someone who has potential to be the best, one of the best, but can't, cross the finish line. And I'm really interested to see if upon watching Ironheart, if there's something to that kind of like dilemma or predicament. I think because we don't have Ironheart, we don't really get a set like we're given this sort of, tragedy to the character, but we don't really get to know who the character is.
Yeah, we barely know who she is.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like if we didn't have Moon Knight and Moon Knight showed up and we got our first exposure. I mean, to Moon Knight is like the Mecha Ventures episode.
It's Oscar Isaac's in a white costume. That's all that is.
Yeah.
He's saying this Khonshu name a lot. Maybe he's sneezing.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But yeah.
I think I like this episode just because of the sheer desperation. It's kind of the like end of the world kind of a deal, and I think Mysterio how he's utilized. It's like this is where Mysterio is if you really think about it, could be one of the scariest villains in the MCU.
Well, yeah. I mean, look. So the credit where credit's due. I mean, Mysterio looks really cool, and the idea of like Mysterio, took over, Stark Industries. That's kind of a cool idea, and him somehow getting his hands on White Vision's kind of neat. But even with that though, so then you have a lot of things to factor in there. So again, it sounds like you have to assume that this all happens basically around the time of Wanda, pre-Eternals, before Wanda, like post WandaVision or sorry, not forget. I keep throwing WandaVision. The point being, it's before Eternals.
It's post Endgame.
Well, yeah, it's post Endgame, pre Eternals, I guess. Essentially, is when this happens. So it's just kind of like factoring that that's when Mysterio comes to power. So I guess it would have to be before Far From Home happens. Again, just in terms of kind of nailing down when things happen, like how the heck does he amass all this power? Again, we just kind of yada yada through that one with like some kind of cool concept art exposition, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like what we have with him, like being in control and looking the way he does. It feels like it's kind of weird to have Mysterio without Spider-Man. It feels like maybe if I don't know, it just feels like a lot of pomp and circumstance that would ordinarily be around Spider-Man that we were kind of foisting onto Riri Williams just because she's an interesting enough character, but again, like you said,
Well,
I don't think she's got enough of a following yet.
well, I mean, part of it's that like I think this pairing makes sense because like Mysterio with Spider Man, they're both affiliated with Tony Stark to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So I think like with whatever happens, maybe Spider Man's on the picture or whatever. Like,
But again, we don't really know how deep the Tony Stark thing goes at Riri Williams yet, unfortunately. But yeah.
I mean, Ezekiel Stain is an Ironheart.
I know we don't know yet, though. It sounds like it, but we have no.
What do you mean we don't know yet?
No. You're right. I'm with your previous point, Rohit. Is that we haven't seen any of that though.
Yeah, no, it's so, and I think it's interesting that White Vision's in this and is used by Beck because it's like White Vision is affiliated to Tony Stark to a certain extent, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this. As reported in the trades, do you remember like the terrorist leader from the first Iron Man?
I heard that somehow he's gonna be back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like how, like maybe if we see like Vision Quest or whatever the Vision Center show is, like maybe there is some point for why he's brought into the picture for like
Well,
thematic.
I think the answer is just going to be simple. It's a flashback to like somehow the Ten Rings organization or something factored into something with the Vision. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a flashback. Maybe we're going to see that guy. That's all I think. I don't think he's going to actually be alive.
I mean, he could be alive as like a hologram or AI, but yeah, with your barf or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I do love the Mysterio tech where we kind of homage from Spider-Man the animated series. I don't know. I forget if like do you remember in Far From if we actually did the same effect where we had like the little blue cubes when the stuff disappeared, or did we not do that?
We didn't use like there was no blue cubes or
No,
anything.
I know we didn't use like literally a individual blue cube to. I'm just saying the fact that when we saw the holograms disappear in this episode, the effect was like 100 billion little blue cubes.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So did we do that in Far From Home?
Yeah, that's where that effect comes from.
Okay, so we definitely saw little blue cubes, like when the holograms disappear. That's what those were.
Yeah.
Like they were cubes and not just holograms.
Well, like I'm like
The
when you say
little is the pixel effect. Is it just like a hologram pixel thing, or was it a bunch of if you freeze frame, they're in the shape of cubes?
I mean, probably, but I think that's just like like how else does like a hologram's probably changing shape and like I think it's just kind of taking like geometry, right? Like geometric look and cubes kind of have like
Right.
But I don't know why. How does what's sort of the point of you bringing that up?
Well, I bring it up because inspiring the animated series, this whole the way we did the effects with Mysterio, where he had literally like a little blue like cubes and like little dice that he would throw around, and they would project the hologram like a little actual tangible like cube. So
You mean
I'm wondering
hologram
is
projector?
exactly the holographic projector was in the shape of a little cube in Spider-Man the animated series, and here when we dispel with the holograms, if you look, it's a bunch of tiny little blue cubes, and I wonder if we also did that in Far From Home, or if we just did it
Oh,
here as like a little nod to Spider-Man the animated series.
I,
That's what
I
I'm wondering.
I think it's probably just not. I don't think that's a nod to Spider-Man series. I think that's just kind of like a generic design for like a hologram projector because in Far From Home, like it's the like Stark drones.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's just kind of a just generic hologram technology.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. So I did like that we kind of we kind of kind of a little karma to the power broker in this one.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is kind of her first. Well, this is her second appearance because the first appearance.
This conveys to me she will be in Armor Wars. That she's gonna be going into. She's gonna be one of the root causes of Rhodey's problems in Armor Wars.
So we'll see Sharon in like 2029.
Yeah.
Well, 4 years goes by really quickly when you think about it.
I assume we're not dead by then, but yes.
I mean, assuming no fatal accidents occur, we're most likely going to live, unless some terminal illness comes up. Either way, hopefully my comment doesn't age poorly in the next 5 or 6 years.
No, it's going to age very poorly, and don't come to my funeral. But thanks. Anyway, so we have the. I gotta be honest. We're doing too many ragtag resistances here, or resistances. Too many ragtag resistance resistance groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, we keep doing it. Like once is a novelty. Okay, like we have the rag, the Avengers of the multi, the Guardians of the Multiverse, and essentially our makeshift Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, those are established groups. But we do like the Resistance, like the Marvel Zombies Resistance, and now we have this Resistance, and it's always a resistance in the What If fair because we have like an amalgam of just different MCU characters on a team.
I don't know if the zombies are resistant. Like resistance, like implies that they're fighting against like an oppressive government or regime. Right?
We'll find the survivors. You see what I mean? The ragtag group of survivors.
Like resistance, post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
I see.
There you go. The post-apocalyptic. Yeah, there you go.
I guess, the fact that it's happened twice in the entire run of What If is like
three. Well, kind of 3 times.
Well, what's the third op?
I'm saying if you count like the Guardians and you count the,
I don't count them as a resistance group. I count them as like basically their take on the Avengers, but just through the.
Well, no. I mean like Nebula's like Guardians, like like Groot and we have Groot and Howard the Duck and.
I don't. I mean, I'm gonna say no on that because like post-apocalyptic, it's like. Something bad happens and you're in a dark future with like characters that are like desperate and are trying to like because here's the thing. No, the third example should be, Hawkeye and Black Widow in the Ultron episode.
Well, right, I guess what I'm getting at is like in general, like every time we're doing a ragtag, team of heroes, or putting heroes on like these characters in a group together, like multiple people, just so because we have the actors, we have the characters, just let's throw them together. We just have an opportunity to put a bunch of them, like random people on a team who don't, maybe in some cases don't necessarily go together. Even this season with the Mech Avengers, it's like we have Wong and Valkyrie and Shang-Chi's aunt. I'm blanking on her name. Is it her
aunt? I couldn't tell if it was.
It's the Michelle Yeoh character. It's the aunt, Fing Na.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
there was a Wakandan person. I couldn't tell.
Well, that's the thing. I can't. It's either Ayo or Okoye because those are the only 2 Dora Milaje that we care about.
I can sort of see your point because, like, on one hand, it's like having that kind of story premise, like it's engaging in one aspect because, hey, you have these characters that wouldn't normally interact but are forced because of this like unforeseen, occurrence, and it's about like, all right, how do you survive the pressure of it all and the stakes of it all? But yeah, doing them more than once or twice, like, I can see like
we're hyping up all these stakes. So this is a very important thing that happens. And again, I think the flawed premise in the episode is that Riri Williams and what she's doing is so important. And it's just the sad story keeps going on over and over again. The watcher feels compelled to break the oath to save her, which again, he's never directly done like this. Not counting the big crossover thing, which is the main example of this that actually counts. This is like the big time that he's like, okay, he's actually directly interfering. We're playing it like it's a big deal, and it feels very hollow. It's the fact like, yeah, we've been watching you. We think you can save the world. I don't think she means that. this feels very like rinse and repeat for like it's we got to stop the thing, and you're the one who can do it because you can actually build stuff, and we're all thumbs.
I mean, I oh, like the characters in the episode themselves regard
Yeah,
Riri.
I mean, it feels very hollow of an invite. Like, we need you. You're important, Riri Williams, because you can, you can build with the knockoff and easy the kitty cake cooker. The easy
Well,
bake oven knockoff.
I feel like you could have made Riri be like the character that like is scrappy or whatever, and it could just be the case that's like, oh, it's not because you're the best, because you're the only one left, or all the other. That I think maybe, yeah, I think it's like, I can see your point where it's like, oh, you're the best. Well, you're not really the best.
We dedicate a lot of time and research into you. I don't know. Feels like we're putting her on a pedestal there. Why watch her? Why not? We're desperate. Come with us.
Yeah, maybe if it was a thing where instead of like the ragtag team coming together to get Riri, it could have been Riri's the one that's trying to like get this ragtag troop
Yeah.
together, and she struggled. And then maybe the part of it is because she's not really that special. She has to make like harder. She has to make a concerted effort to convince all these people to come together, and that probably adds to the desperation. I think I was watching sort of this review, this analyzing the season, and someone was making this point. You could have just made it focus on Riri and Mysterio and not have the group, the supporting character, or whatever, and just focus on like sort of this like David versus Goliath situation, which I think would have been an interesting enough story where like Riri's kind of outmatched by Mysterio and she kind of has to use her wits and be like how Tony was in Iron Man 3. And I think that would have been an interesting enough premise or story. But the whole like apocalypse of it all is like, okay, like I can see why you're disengaged with sort of this episode, because like there's just a lot to like make this happen. You could have made it a much more simpler story that wouldn't basically insist upon itself with regards to say Riri Williams. Um, Although I think for Riri Williams, it's like I kind of appreciate that she was just sort of had not her wits end, but she clearly was just like barely keep it together, or just barely able to get out of there. Especially with White Vision involved, I think that's like I think that was sort of my favorite sequence when White Vision comes to the ship and is like just and like Riri's just trying to get the machine to work that could like stop Vision. That I think was like the best example is like, all right, this is where it being a post-apocalyptic scenario, it's like you're really just rushing against time until like a bigger mighty force just like knocks you down.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
What do you think of White Vision being involved? Was it?
I love. Here's the thing with the White Vision. I really love the on forever a little bit, where she has like the Wakandan suit. So I thought that was kind of I thought that was a cool idea, and the whole yeah, I love that. And I love the Mysterio reveal was pretty cool too. The fact that he kind of pulled a similar trick he did with Spider-Man, where he basically I am the central I am the central processing, or he's like the I forget, not the central processing. He's the main thing. He's the like the tower she needs to get to.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I thought that was that was pretty neat. I think the coolest thing is I was just really just checked out with what was going on there, and it just felt very much like, okay, so she's I throwing like I can see who's fake and who's not fake. I don't know. It just felt a lot of like it's basically that's the main reason for the vision thing, just so they can go through the holograms. Like, is that really what's giving Mysterio all that power? I mean, it should be the cleverness of the holograms. They're just playing it like all the holograms of the Iron Federation until we have that really cool plot twist moment. Like,
Also,
huh.
why would White Vision be the one to have this kind of like capabilities, or would need this kind of capabilities?
I mean, it's the Mind Stone, I guess, but
Well, I mean, I assume you can kind of finagle it with it's like Vision is sort of somewhat Stark technology, so it could be the case that like maybe he's attuned to like see through sort of any illusions or whatever, but that's sort of a handwave kind of a deal. But no, I think it would have been cooler beyond just like being able to see through the holograms. Maybe it's like with the overall like force, like White Vision is a really powerful character and they barely held on, so they're able to like utilized technology and gave them a bit of a fighting advantage, I think that would have certainly, been the more, impressive use of White Vision's technology.
Hmm. All right. So, what you think of the ending with the Watcher getting in trouble?
I think it I think it made sense because I can understand where maybe you might bring up what happened at the end of the first season. It's like why is he held accountable? It's like, for in my view, that's when intervention is justified, because you don't intervene, then like Infinity Ultron will just destroy the entire multiverse. You're trying to prevent things from going to hell. Whereas this is a predetermined outcome. Like
Yeah.
the whole point for the Watchers, that he's aware that Riri is destined to lose, but he feels so bad. His empathy that's been fostered through seeing all these stories and connecting with the likes of uh, with Peggy, with Captain
Mhm.
Carter. That's made led him to make a decision that couldn't really be justified in terms of like, hey, you know, Riri dying doesn't affect the multiverse as a whole, but him having some level of sympathy and like sadness for her lot, he made a
Mhm.
human decision, and I think that's where the other Watchers had to come in, because like you're not being the Watcher, you're being immortal.
That brings us to episode 6. Oh yeah, so yes, what if 1872? So this was a fun set piece episode. We kind of did this before with the was it 1602?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's the, I like this one until the twist at the end. So Shang-Chi is a sheriff, kind of a cowboy, and with Kate Bishop as his deputy, as Hawkeye. That's a lot of fun. That's cool. I love the whole like ring the bell 10 times, the 10 rings, and that summons them. And we have John Walker doing it. Like all that's very solid opener. I love the whole thing of like he takes his hat off. I'm gonna take my hat off, and he kicks the crap out of everybody before the
Mhm.
hat falls. Like that's amazing. I'm a sucker for a good western. How'd you feel about this one?
I like the episode. I think the Western setting was like, okay, like how much of it is going to be a traditional Western. I was really surprised that they went into the whole history of discrimination against Chinese workers, in specific Chinese nationals that came to the United States in the mid to late 19th century. And I think that Shang-Chi wanting to try to avenge his sister, and Kate Bishop trying to avenge her father, and them kind of being together. I, they're a good pairing. I kind of wish we got to get a little bit more of their traditional personalities from their respective MCU projects in the mix, because like Kate Bishop being like a mess, I think it would be interesting to see how she would be, interacting with someone like Shang-Chi, who's like, you know, it's just basically a regular guy who's kind of has his stuff together for the most part. Um, but in this, they're just kind of like two capable, Western
Uh,
heroes
I
that,
think Shang-Chi is likes girls named Kate.
man, he'll
He's
really
got a
enjoy
type.
what
He's got a type.
and what is that
No,
type? Just
no,
women
no.
with
It's just girls named Kate or Katie.
so basically if Kitty Pryde shows up in the MCU, we're gonna ship her with Shang-Chi,
Yeah,
assuming they're the same age.
us hopefully yes.
Oh man, everyone's like, "Oh, Spidey and Kitty Pryde," and the intellectuals in the room, Shang Chi and Kitty Pryde. Actually, with depending on like if Wolverine's involved in the MCU when Kitty Pryde shows up, like maybe Kitty Pryde can learn like martial arts from Shang Chi instead of from Wolverine.
I mean, maybe yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So here's the thing. So the hood had me really exciting, and I had no idea about the Iron. At the very least, I think I may have heard about it once, but I completely forgot about it, the whole thing with Ironheart. But the Hood was a really cool comic pull. They got me excited, and because sometimes the Hood has a Daredevil connect, so I perked up. You know.
What isn't really much of a Daredevil
No, I
connect.
know not much. I'm saying sometimes. I mean, that's the thing. Kingpin did have competition with the Hood. That
Yeah,
was the
but
thing
like
in the
the
comic.
Hood was like an Avengers villain. Like he was on the Cabal. Like
Well, yeah,
that.
but there was like a whole thing where the Hood was trying to supplant the Kingpin. That was like a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember like the big thing for the Hood when Bendis was writing him was that he was just like a constant like street level villain that the Avengers
Mm-hmm.
were with, because the Avengers at the time had like Luke Cage and like Danny Rand and Jessica Jones, all that. So like that's kind of how they got involved in the mix. But
You keep saying Avengers. Do you actually mean the Avengers, or do you mean like just the Defenders?
no. The new Avengers lineup with
Oh,
Luke
okay, the
Cage.
new event. Okay, I got you. Right.
Yes.
I'm sorry, because they rebranded. Bendis also did. That's why I'm asking, because Bendis then put them all.
No, but like that's how the Hood came into like greater prominence is when Bendis had him in this new Avengers run.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being, the Hood is just it's kind of a cool aesthetic, and I think we kind of rewrote like how his powers work here. Which, I mean, I like how his power. I like the idea that the Hood's like basically like an evil version of Doctor Strange's cloak to an extent, where he kind of possesses people. I thought that's a really cool idea. I don't know how. I did a cursory look. It doesn't seem like that at all. Like is how the thing works in the comics, but it's kind of I kind of like it. I don't know. It looks like maybe Ironheart will say otherwise. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think sorry. Here's the thing. We kind of address here. This is the episode we address the big thing, which I think we waited. It took 3 seasons to directly address this, but we finally did, and I thought it was a really good explanation. Where the Watcher at after our cold open, he basically says, the farther you venture into the multiverse, things start to get weird, and then we get like the ideas there. Basically, this is where we acknowledge my biggest hang up. My biggest hang up with the What If has always been the
Are the police coming to arrest you for your opinion on this?
I don't
I,
think so.
I would say I want to represent you, but I'm not licensed in beyond the state of Texas.
Hmm.
So
Anyway, so it took 3 seasons to directly address this, but I like that we acknowledge that the further you get in the MCU, things get weird because we've always had that hang up where it's been like it's just one specific choice happens and we veer off. One specific choice happens and we and that's the creation of the branch. And it always just felt like very limiting in terms of all the other stuff you can do. If you say, okay, it's against the fun of the multiverse. DC does this all the time with the Elseworlds, where it's one choice kind of creates the universe, but it creates like a very different universe. And we've never really represented that. Every time we see that, it feels more inconsistent because they
well,
very firmly said it's like one choice.
well, I mean, like for Elseworlds, the whole thing is just like alternate realities exist,
Yeah.
and it could be like A through Z or Z through A or what.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rules can vary from universe to universe. For What If, I can certainly understand people being a little bit more circumspect in terms of like the limitations, because like what if it's like, okay, if A was B, like this is what happens. And I think the fun of What If is that like it's not necessarily an alternate reality or just like, oh, here's a character in a different setting or whatever. It's like this character made a certain choice or was in a different circumstance, and I'm trying to explore how that makes that such a unique storytelling point and how it contrasts with the regular, continuity. And I think with this, it's like on one hand, people could be like, well, in 1602, you had the premise, the twist of like, oh, it's actually Infinity War, Cap hitting the time stone that leads to this alternate universe. That's how it's possible. We don't have that here. They're just in the West. It's a Wild West setting. But the other hand, it's like if we just have like the really out there universes be because there's like a decision made in like the regular 616 MCU, then I feel like you would also have the same level of exhaustion. It's like, okay, what is the thing that happens in the MCU that leads to this really widely disparate universe? And it becomes sort of a trope, in of itself. So
Well, I just feel like my issue with the show would have been a lot. I think if we just acknowledged or had an episode like this, or just acknowledged this a lot earlier on, it would have excused a lot of stuff. We're okay, so we don't have to play as hard. We can. It allows us to loosen things up a little bit. Like tradition, when you think of multiverse, anything could happen. Just things are different here. Versus like, okay, so like, we've spent so much time just saying one specific thing, went awry, and then we have like other inconsistencies where then it's like the logic police of like, okay, well, in the Captain Carter episode, okay, why are the Hydra uniforms different? Why did that happen? That's not like that this like these dominoes aren't in the way of those dominoes at all.
and when you really think about it, for certain episodes, it's like, well, it's not just like what if this, it's also what if this, what if this, what if this, what if this,
Yeah.
to necessitate the story they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it feels that you kind of have to, like, what if it's just another way of doing ultra reality stories?
Yeah.
And you can start from in like a what if paradigm, but you can eventually over time can grow out of that. And
That's the
I
thing. We
think
have stuff like Doctor Strange, where that was always like Multiverse of Madness, where we go. There are a bunch of things that aren't like that aren't like one singular decision. Like we have the pizza balls.
yeah,
We have like the lights meaning different things, that kind of stuff.
And I think I think for a certain set of like what it like fans that like watch the show, it always feels like they're not necessarily enthused or wanting that kind of thing where it's like just widely disparate stories. I think they're really, because especially think of it this way, it's like, what is the most common thing that people have wanted the show to have done? It's like, what if the other half snapped? And it's like, when you really think about it, it's not a story that leads into really interesting, story threads, right? It'd be just like the Stash the Multiverse Saga, but like earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like fans are really hyper focused, like, well, what if X is Y or whatever? It's like, well, really, what if it's just an entry point into just exploring ultra realities? And I think you're onto something, Dragon, where if we had such an episode like this from early on, and maybe like Walter emphasized like there's just certain things that just happen independent of like any particular outcome or choice, and that's sort of the beauty of the multiverse, whatever. And say that, I think more fans would have been open to just kind of explore. All right, like imagine Marvel heroes and like a detective movie or something like that. And I think this episode does a pretty solid job with its Western setting.
Yeah, and I'm with you with the whole the Chinese immigrant experience in the Old West, which we've seen like the whole railroad like worker thing way back when. There's a lot of like I think we covered that well. I like that we have the Iron Fist nod with the June Fan.
Mm-hmm.
Which who by the way in main line he was like the Iron Fist during the times of the Old West. That's a fun pull.
Oh, he's an actual like.
Yeah, so in the comics, he was like the Iron Fist, like going through like the decades and everything. So he in the times of the Old West, he was the Iron Fist.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's a really neat nod there. Yeah,
that's cool because I would thought he was just an OC like for.
No. He's real. It's the full name, which we say later, is like I think later on, when the other Watchers are grilling Watu. It's this Kwai June Fan. I think like that's why if you looked him up, so it's Kwai or Quay.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So a lot of people speculate, and I think that it might be accurate. I would hope it is. I think it'd be a really cool way to bring the character back. Is Shang-Chi 2, which I mean, there's a lot of talk of like, yeah, Shang-Chi 2 might be in the works right now. It might delve into like this whole tournament that features an Iron Fist. So might be a little Shang-Chi Iron Fist connect that we're getting there.
I mean, as an aside,
not this kid, but just in general.
As an aside, I feel like a tournament movie being like a big like event. I feel like that's something you say for a third movie.
Well, either ways, the fact that one way or another, maybe an Iron Fist could tie into Shang-Chi, which would be a good idea because Iron Fist we need a rebrand on anyway. So
we're not getting Danny Rand into the picture anytime soon.
Look, I'm for Danny Rand returning. No one else is. Okay, no one else is going to co-sign that. I understand that.
Maybe with a different actor. Although I feel like Finn Jones got better over time, but I feel like the damage was already done.
Well, yes, that's the problem.
Get Glenn Powell as Danny Rand.
That'd be pretty cool.
He would be too. He would. He more.
You gotta feel horrible for you gotta feel bad for Finn Jones. The moment that the recast, like everyone's coming back, it all counted except for Finn Jones because
Well,
no one
probably
liked
Luke.
him.
Well, Mike Coulter is definitely not coming back to play Luke Cage.
I don't know. They keep going back and forth on how
No, I
that's
mean,
gonna.
in an interview, Mike Coulter was like,
Like
"I
an
can."
old interview, and now his show's over, so he's free now.
Yeah, but like he's old. He's not at that age to where he can go get back into that shape, and he hasn't maintained that level of shape for like 5 to 10 years, give or take. Mike Coulter, when he was interviewed, like he was very much.
They'll inject them with whatever stem cell stuff that makes the MCU actors in shape suddenly. They'll be fine
with whatever procedures or treatments that we're speculating or alleging, not that we know for certain.
Come on, we know for certain. Even like Momoa or somebody's like someone. People have like they've let it slip that there's like a treatment. There's something they do.
Whatever it is, there's a certain age. Like Mike Coulter is not like it's certainly gone up there in age. So, and I don't know if like he could.
How old do you think Mike Coulter is exactly?
Mike Coulter is how old is he? He is 48 years old.
48 years old. Oh yes, he's an old man in the winter of his years. 48 years old.
I mean, he's 2 years away, but being fifth, like
you do realize these MCU projects, at least even like again, we'll know for sure soon enough. But we're essentially saying time has passed since we've last seen Luke Cage. He could age, conceivably.
It's not about him. It's not about him. It's about age. It's like you're asking Mike Coulter, a 48-year-old guy, to get back to the level of shape he was in Luke Cage, and Luke Cage was like.
Here's an idea, radical idea. Okay, radical idea. Maybe we don't have him take his shirt off. There's an idea. I'm just throwing it out there.
Come on, it's Luke Cage. You got to see those pecs. You got to see
those no. Here's the thing. Luke. We don't need to see the pecs. What we need to see are the bullet holes in the shirt. So that he just needs to get the veneer of it being in shape through little holes in his shirt. That's as much as he needs to be in shape.
He needs the muscle suit underneath.
Still, shirt. Looks in shape enough to me in the show Evil.
I mean, there's like gradients in shape, right?
Here's the thing, he just needs to be in shape enough. He doesn't need to be Jack. He doesn't need to be Hugh Jackman.
For a superhero project, you need to be like ripped, man. Especially if he has to do
again, he's a character who's like basically things bounce off of him. Like Luke Cage. We've seen it. You know how many action sequences we've seen where he's like he walks through and people like
Luke is thrown around a lot. Like he gets explosions or whatever, and like he jumps down. Like he has to do some level of stunt work and like wire work or whatever. Like he's not, especially if he's going to be fighting against superpowered people. It's I think we've gone too far back. Going back to the Western plot. What you think of the twist at the end?
I didn't like
the twist. Just for a second, how do you feel about Sonny Birch showing up in this?
Well, again, I think the main reason Sonny Birch shows up is that Walton Goggins, he's played some Cowboys, and people really like him playing Cowboys, so he felt like a no-brainer, and we have him in the MCU anyway. Look, Sonny Birch was here's the thing, love Walton Goggins, and I think his character was decent in Ant-Man and the Wasp. The problem is, again, we don't need him at all in that movie. He's completely pointless, or at the very least, he's an ancillary. There's nothing wrong with an ancillary foe, but it feels like it feels like a waste of Goggins if we're not going to have him take center stage. But he's at least they have a bigger role, I suppose. Like, instead of like third, like making like half and half instead of like he's. Anyway, the point being, if we're gonna pull him into it, I feel this is a setting that gave him a little bit more to work with, and we had him like kill the Bishop family,
Yeah.
The whole mind control thing. So he felt, I think he was better reflected here.
No, I think like Walton Goggins was like a fun to add to this episode. But going into the twist, what did you think of who was underneath the mask of the hood?
I didn't like it at all. It felt really telegraphed, and I was saying, "Come on, don't tell me it's her." The whole time I was like, "Please don't let it be the sister," and it was.
I was thinking it was going to be Wen Wu for a second because it looked like the bottom part of like, oh, this looks very much like Wen Wu's design from Shang-Chi. So it's like, oh, is it him? But I mean, it was as a prize in the sense that like I thought it was going to be the dad, but I can understand, for the sister, she was basically like mind controlled by the hood.
Which was even lamer.
And it's like her entire mo was just like she was just basically like Killmonger, but for the Asian workers, and it's like okay, like
Yeah, which is felt, that's what I'm saying. So you're going to kidnap the Asian workers to, you know,
yeah, no, it's at least with Killmonger,
it feels like really you don't see any flaw in that plan.
yeah, no,
Killmonger, at least, he wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm going to enslave everyone
no,
to.
he at least thought he was going to be persuasive enough,
Yeah,
and there were
that's it.
people
Like, Killmonger actually had an argument.
yeah, no,
Like,
there.
hey, we have the weapons. Let's cause some trouble here. Let's do
It would have
something.
been interesting if like, oh, it would be interesting. People thought like, oh, they're like mind controlled. Like maybe not all of them, but like some of them are actually like willingly chose to side with the hood, and maybe like the Iron Fist kid could have been had conflicting loyalties of whether to join with the hood or with like or side with Shang-Chi. That would have been interesting, but
Anyway, so then we have a nice traditional Western ending right off into the sunset, but the Watcher screwed up again, which is what I'm saying. This is building to the problem of this season at the very least had the worst of like I can't even say word. I don't know. I mean, I like the build. I like a build up to this, but by the same token, though, it just feels really manufactured. That okay, the Watcher all of a sudden is getting save happy, and again, I guess you could chalk it up to a character arc, or he's just kind of tired of not doing stuff. But it just feels, he's had a lot of restraint before, and this is like he's just doing this like like willy nilly. He's just like I'm gonna save the kid, where it feels like I don't know if that kid was really in as much danger as he thought. I don't know.
yeah, at least with Riri, it's like
Riri's like he knew for a fact, okay, Riri keeps dying and dying, and I can't stand to see her die. This feels like, why kill the kid?
imagine the kid died though. That ooh, that would have been such a dark turn for the episode, but
When the audience is going to be, why couldn't it be Danny Rand?
no, and some even messed up people was like, why wasn't there more kid deaths in this episode? Only one. I need two or three.
You're a sick man, Rohit.
I'm just a man who knows what the audience wants.
More dead children. Okay, noted. So, Watchers in Trouble, cliffhanger, episode 7. Boom.
The second to last episode being what it is, it's it's interesting to see this like group of people. I kind of want to know more about like why is it not just the Guardians of the Multiverse instead
Well,
of
let's see. Well, obviously we couldn't bring back the T'Challa Star-Lord.
yeah.
I think that's predominantly one of the main reasons. Just trying to think of who's left because I'm on this party Thor, but it's I don't know. I guess it was for variety. Honestly, I'm gonna throw this at you. I think it's variety, maybe budget too. I think they had to limit it to 4.
Yeah, and it's like Kahori, it makes sense for it to be
Ori
obviously.
is an original for the show, and you gotta remember they have to know at a certain point during the season it's gonna be the last one. So we have Kahori. We should end it, with her. And we need Peggy Carter. She needs to be there, so we need her. Kahori, was a big factor of last season, and we're kind of ending things. We should probably put her in there, and then beyond
and
that,
and Birdie being the grown up version of like Howard and Darcy's daughter, that's fun and neat. Storm, here's the thing. Storm is like cool in her stormness of it all.
well, yeah, of course.
But did Storm really need to be on that team?
Well, I think the only reason Storm's here is because X-Men '97 performed well. That's the only reason Storm's here.
Well, wasn't I mean, I would imagine with the length of animation, she was already part of the plans before like people
Well,
knew.
okay, I think it's just because we finally were making X-Men 97, which
Yeah, I do know it's kind of
coincidentally before the point being because the
yeah,
X-Men 97 is a thing. That's why we have Storm. Otherwise, there would be no Storm.
yeah.
They lucked out that X-Men 97 performed extremely well, but still.
Mhm.
I don't know. It took a lot of heart. I don't know. Maybe they didn't luck out, man. X-Men 97 was kind of a lock. Honestly, X-Men 97 was kind of a lock no matter what they did with it, but they lucked out. It was actually really good.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that she's specifically like a version of Storm that has the Thor hammer.
Which makes so much sense, by the way, in terms of like anything you could do with Storm. This was probably the best thing you could have done with a
Hmm.
kind of Storm taking the persona of another character.
Yeah.
Where I mean, fusing with the, you know what I mean. So yeah, here's the thing. So this episode is where we check in. I was wondering this the whole season. We check in with Captain Carter after she presumably saw Loki's big multiverse tree, which is what we ended last season off with. So essentially, she's leading the charge of kind of a new batch of Guardians of the Multiverse, and they're basically doing what this yet again complicates what the Watcher's doing. The Watcher shouldn't be interacting with anything because he knows if anything really bad's happening. He's got Peggy Carter and the Guardians of the Multiverse to take care of this for him. Why is
Yeah.
he interacting? Why is he interfering? Like if
Uh,
anything, here's the thing. I will give you this. All right, the Watcher. Wouldn't it be interesting if so first season that's a gimmick that saves the whole universe, that saves everything. Second season, just to acknowledge that yeah we kind of stretched it there, but then there's consequence for that action in season three. What if the Watcher's boss just show up out of nowhere unprompted, take him, we ask where the Watcher is, and then we find out in the last episode why.
that would have been interesting to see how that play out.
Anyway, yeah, so we saved Nebula and her makeshift Guardians of the Galaxy, and or like the new Nova Corps, what have you, from the giant, kind of Hydra-like tentacle, monster from the very first episode to show you that we're closing the loop and we're using TVA technology, which apparently they stole, which I'm surprised Loki didn't just give them, but take it for what you will. And yeah, they've been saving multiverses here and there, and yeah, I love the. I gotta be honest. I love that when we see the Watcher chained up. It's done in such a Jack Kirby way. It looks really cool. We're using Kirby dots all over the place, and he's being like chained up, all Herculean and stuff. It's really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, and I really the overall aesthetic of it was just like it's Kirby DNA.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see. So a lot of cool things here. I love their ship. I love that Howard the Duck and Darcy basically built this for Birdie, and Birdie's like the tech person on the team. She inherited her parents' resourcefulness,
Yeah,
and the whole the universe with donuts that have no carbs.
that's a universe I want to visit.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Anyway, so but I think it's so cute, just the idea of like we have like the old Howard and Darcy's nagging their daughter. I thought that I was laughing so hard at that.
It was it was in line with those characters. So I would have been cool to see Natasha Lyonne voice Birdie in like a animated sort of deal for Howard and Darcy.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so the plan is, so when the Watcher, was taken, he had a bunch of these multiverse kind of shards that, kind of like they kind of found Peggy Carter and company. I wonder how intentionally, but they found them. And basically, the plan is we're going to use this to try and track down the Watcher, and they end up hatching this really crazy plan. Which again, I like. I like the crazy plan here because it brings back one of my favorite characters from the whole show. Period. I love Infinity Ultron so much. Oh my god, it's like one of the coolest. Still, I think the coolest thing to come out of the show.
Mhm.
Second to Captain Carter, but to be fair, Captain Carter was in the comics first. Infinity Ultron's purely what if. Love it. Just this crazy plan. We're going to use him the moment he achieves his goal, and we're going to use him to open the door and then shut it behind him. That's the plan, at least. But I love that it's this moment of, had he not discovered the Watcher, he might have just had this existential crisis in realizing the error in his ways.
Oh, most definitely.
That's such a cool idea to me. It's like, yes. I think Ross Marquard's acting's a little off on this one, admittedly, but it's good.
In what way?
The material is good. I mean, I think the material is that good. I don't really care. I don't know. It's like his performance. It's weird. In the first season, you can tell it's Marquard's doing a James Spader impression.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be fair, he kind of does even Multiverse of Madness every time we do the Ultron thing. That's anyway. Which I do. It sounds. I think James Spader's confirmed to come back for Visions. I believe for White Vision.
Yes.
Vision Quest. So I wonder. Anyways, initially I was wondering if if we ever bring him back, if it would be Mark Webb. I'm glad they could be getting Spader back, regardless. I just feel like it feels like here he's kind of doing his own thing, but it just feels incongruous, and it's not bad, but it just feels. I don't know if it's maybe the material that's kind of making him sound more human, perhaps. Maybe that's it. I don't know how intentional a choice it is, but I don't know.
I mean, if he does sound human, it makes sense considering he has some love. I mean, maybe it's. I think it's kind of just difficult to like how to direct a voice actor to where you have to be robotic but have some level of emotion. And
unless you're Andrea Romano, you can't direct that.
Well, I mean, there probably are other great voice directors, out there.
Yeah,
So.
but I'm just saying she's like top of the heap as far as that one goes. Like she could Anyway, like she's directed Brain Swap episodes, man.
Fair point.
Yeah. I mean, she's had Michael Rosenbaum sound like Lex Luthor and yet sound like the Flash all at once.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I think for what it is, like I kind of appreciated the twist of like Infinity Ultron being sort of an ally to to our group of heroes.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have the damaged shield. Everyone kind of freaks out on the Infinity Ultron. He says, like, no, I'm going to assist you in saving her. And that brings us to the last episode, episode 8. Very, very groundbreaking title. What if? What if? Sorry, I'm stuttering. No, it's that's what the episode is.
I kind of wish it just titled "What If It Ends."
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and and there is a level of finality to this episode, so I think it makes sense to kind of title it that way. I think "What If" is just a little too hokey of a title.
Yeah. All right, so I love what this episode is going for thematically. The opening and seeing the Watcher take the oath, which we've always kind of gone on about, but actually seeing it happen, really cool. I love how I love how the thing we do with the purpose here, where with the purpose will reveal itself in time, and it's for the Watchers to decide. And it's very much like kind of an oath, and a goal of a Watcher is very much in conflict with itself in terms of like with those parameters set, which is kind of interesting. That it's like I think the idea is like if you swear an oath, shouldn't it mean something versus versus the oath just being something you say. I think that's kind of where the Watcher's coming down on things, where he's pondering, like, shouldn't it mean something? And the other ones are like, no, you just say the oath and then you just watch. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So we really see the friendship of the Watu and Agent Carter on display here, which is really nice. Again, Haley Atwell, I can't say enough nice things about her. I love her. I love her in the role. I love just Captain Carter and just the fact that we have Kevin Carter's being all friendly next to him, like, looking for you, and the whole thing. But now you know what a surprise feels like. Congratulations. Like, it's delightful.
You're one of the few people on the internet that actively like Captain Carter as a character.
Really?
I mean, it's people's. I think the people, like some people that I don't love Captain Carter that much as a character, but it just feels like sometimes when people bring her up, it's never. It's like, oh, this is just like this is just an OC that like people that make What If, or the joke is like, what if it's really, you mean the Captain Carter show? And it's like, I can understand maybe that people not liking the overarching story and like Captain Carter's kind of the avatar of all that, but I and also it doesn't help that like her first two big episodes that focus on her are like retreads of like Captain America movies.
Well, that's the point, though.
Yeah, but like if it's a retread and there's not some interesting twist to like Peggy being the one in charge, it's just,
Well, I don't know. We had the Hydra Stomper and everything.
I mean, the Hydra Stomper thing was a little bit cooler, and there was certainly a little bit more deviation on the Winter Soldier like inspired aspect with like the whole like Red Room of it all. But I can sort of agree that like her stories, if it's focused on her, just feels like they're just taking Captain America stories in the MCU and putting Peggy in there, and it's like I, I think I enjoy her more when she's being kind of the multiverse, side of it all.
But
Rather,
look, I'll grant you that it is really fun seeing her kind of plopped into the multiverse and on like the Guardians of the Multiverse. I'll give you that. I'm just saying in general, I really like her.
mm-hmm.
I don't know.
People were satisfied. There were some level of people satisfied when she got like chopped in half by Wanda.
Oh, come on.
I'm being facetious about it to a certain extent, but she's not a character that's like, it's whenever people say, "Oh, this is my issue with What If," like she's always picked on as like being representative of the lesser aspects of the show, which I don't necessarily think it's on her as a character, but it's not like she's involved in the aspects of the show that people don't like as much.
Oh well. Anyway, yeah. So we talked about the Watchers bosses. So we have the Eminence, the Executioner, and Incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, the Eminence, voiced by the wonderful Jason Isaac. So I love the Watcher's gonna have a boss. I love it's kind of twofold too. Where the Eminence is now, mind you, I don't. We've seen other Watchers in the MC. We've seen like a group of them in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We know there are other ones. That's the thing. So
Mhm.
I forget if the evidence is. I believe we've just kind of labeled these guys. We've given them the names. In the comics. So it's probably where that's pulling from. Eminence being one of them. I don't know if he's literally the boss, but he could be.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it's kind of a call out in two respects. Because one, we give him a boss, and we have Jason Isaacs, who's a wonderfully competent actor, and I think he's like, if you think the Watcher, he would be a go to for him. I never would have. I didn't go to, but he could be.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't think that I want to be clear, it wasn't like an outcry or anything, but I like that, again, when you think of the Watchers based on what he looked like in the comics, you kind of have the Eminence be in that here. We don't really, again, Jeffrey Wright being cast as the Watcher is an excellent choice, and it's a really cool idea, and he's the voice I think you would want with the Watcher. I think again, it was kind of it was a kind of a choice. It was kind of a change for that character, and it's kind of neat that we kind of have the take on the Watcher that we have versus I think what a lot of people were expecting with the Watcher. It was like traditional comics wise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like I don't know, in terms like in questioning the philosophy of the Watcher. I kind of like we have that going forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, let's see. What was I? So anyway, so we have this. You kind of rake Uatu over the coals here, where we point out he pleads the case for season one, which he was absolutely right. And then they're calling out, well, what about Stephen Strange from the second season? Like, still, he paid the price for it, though. It all worked out. And then he's like, okay, what about Riri Williams? What about the Iron Fist kid? What about that they just throwing the Reed Richards, Nick Fury, Madison with a Y and two N's. Okay, so that was really, look. It's silly, but it's really funny just seeing. I love seeing the watch. But again, really Madison with a Y and two. He saved Madison. Like, what is a Watu thing? That's what I'm saying. This has to be like the only way this really works in the grand scheme is if a Watu is just it's the arc of like he's being disenfranchised with the oath and he's just breaking it willy nilly for everyone.
No, he was doing a solid for Wong. Wong needs his TV watching buddy.
Oh, it's not even like a romantic thing. It's just like we're binge buddies.
Yeah, the good kind of binge, not the bad kind of binge.
Well, oh right, yeah. I would hope not. I mean, she's in great shape, but I would hope not.
That's for the Marvel Netflix side of things.
Yeah, yeah. It's for the fourth season of Jessica Jones.
No, it's actually the third season of Iron Fist. Things get really hairy for Colleen Wing.
Yeah. Anyway, so depressing binge talk aside, let's see. So we have the so again it's the hypocrisy of inaction here, where it's like we're sworn to an oath, but we'll kill them. We'll enact in this case so we can get back. You've driven us to this. This is the utter hypocrisy of the Watchers bosses.
Yeah, no, it's and I appreciate watching calling them out on that. Um, and I think it's kind of the thing where you want to throughout the course of the 3 seasons, like there is this growing connection with the denizens of the multiverse, and as such, he becomes this more freed and willing to break the oath. And really, it's what is the oath doing beyond just having us be bystanders to life.
Yeah, it's basically. I love that it's this fundamental, question of like, well, why, what are we watching for? It's like, why are we watching this? And again, I love that it's almost. Now, mind you, this is nowhere near as good as this, but look at Batman Brave and the Bold, their ending, where again it kind of ends up being a meta thing of like, why are we watching this?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that we kind of took it there. So anyway, also it's really funny too. Just it's a nice arc for that. Watu went from kind of just the Watcher to having his name Watu, like actually coined in the show. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
So Infinity Ultron is kind of saving him there. And I love that. I love that Watu's going like, wait, what? Like, what is every which way? What ship? He's just freaking out there. It's just great to see kind of Jeffrey Rush break. Jeffrey Wright break character here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're a few jumps shy of the whole plan. It's a really good plan. We go to the Strange Supremes. Dimension, his universe, and they'll have control there, and that's the only place they can hide from and possibly stop the Watcher's bosses. But then we kind of have our matchstick moment here. We don't get there in time, and then we have the ideological debate of saving that for the last episode here, where watch is to have no POV, to have no perspective. To see, like, basically, sorry, let me try that again. I love that after the action, it boils down to the ideological debate of like, to watch is to have no perspective, and that's how you can see all. Because if you have no, if you're unbiased, you can see everything. On the flip side, but why do it in the first place if we learn nothing and have no perspective by the end of it? I think that's a really good debate that they're having there. Admittedly, I kind of wish they were having it less with their fists and more with their words, but it's cool action.
It reflects the state of our nation.
I mean, pretty much. Just the heads are less big and the hands are smaller, but
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. So to save Watu's friends, he has him take the oath. This was a really cool idea, but this fact, okay, you're all just gonna swear the oath. Like, wait, what? Really? Like, it's the only way.
And yeah, what do you think of our 4 heroes becoming like Watcher level in terms of power and capability?
I mean, I like the desperation of it. Honestly, I think I like that more than anything about it. The action was, given Birdie, it's kind of like it's the age old problem we have with with Angel as a character. It's like, how can you make Angel cool? And at the end of the day, you have to give him like a full on cosmetic makeover, usually through evil, but in this case through cosmic power.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make the wings like dangerous somehow.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, overall, I think we had some impressive action, but it went on too long. But aside from that, I think the action was pretty cool. The I thought it was a little. I think it was a little cheap that we had the thing where we were like tearing away all the variants of themselves, and while we were doing that, though, if you freeze frame all the variants, essentially, especially for Captain Carter, where what if she were this character and that character and this character? It's really all the basically she was all the X-Men. If you really freeze frame through that for all the variants being disappeared, they're all X-Men characters.
I that's a nice touch.
Like pretty much, that's the thing. That felt a little like, okay, really, guys, we couldn't have put a little bit more. Here's the thing, Kahori, because she's an original character. At least those were like one version was an X-Men, the rest were like, okay, there's some other like she could have been anything.
Yeah.
So that was a little cheap to me, but I am glad that we didn't like literally erase all the. I like the threat was there for erasing all the variants from existence. It was a little easy that okay, she basically she kind of powers up and she kind of sacrifices herself to bring him to Doctor Strange's to Strange Supreme's universe. So in terms of how we killed her off, wasn't crazy about it. Not I really honestly I really hate killing Captain Carter off here. I really didn't like that. Thought it was a cheap solution.
What would you prefer to have been the solution?
Well, I didn't want her to die. I mean, it's honestly, I wish we just kind of found a way to get. We just need to get the Strange Supreme's dimension some other way. That's all we needed.
I think like for what the show was, I think my issue isn't necessarily with the sacrifice. I think it's kind of more
I mean,
like
if anything, Kahori or Birdie would have been the ones to do it. Honestly, probably Kahori because she's the original character.
I I think with the fact that the show started with Captain Carter, it kind of makes thematic sense for her to bookend. Kind of, she's like quote unquote the Iron Man, the Tony Stark of this show.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I get the logic of why of all the characters it had to be her, but it just it's I'm not happy about it though. I liked her, and plus I think that
Well, I mean, the show did its job then because you miss her as a character.
yeah, that's true. It's also the thing of like now it's like she's most likely going to show up in Secret Wars, but it's going to be a thing of like how is she going to show? Because we erased her from complete existence now. If she can come back from that, anyone can come back from anything.
Well, I assume she would just come back as like because I think the report was that she's coming back as Asian Carter. So like I assume if like Haley Atwell, she's coming back for Doomsday or Secret Wars. So I think she's going to show up as like I wouldn't be surprised if it's like Peggy Carter like post that ending of Endgame, right?
Well, sure, but by the same token, though, it's like that. Yes, but as Captain Carter, that was kind of the appeal of like in Secret Wars, where if we're doing the multiversal war, we would have the multiversal characters.
Um, I mean, she could still like,
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it doesn't sound like we got rid of all the variants, but still, right? And it has to be like the variants survived, right?
Yeah, that's my no. I interpreted that her variant survived, and it's just her Captain Carter that's dead.
Yeah, I guess if that's I don't know. Just look. I guess that's fine. It's just will be another Captain Carter. We killed one already, so I guess it's not a big deal. We do the second one that we've killed, so I guess we're fine. So maybe I guess that's fine. I don't know. It's still you feel a loss.
It's like Marvel has a rule that like if Captain Carter shows like up, she has to die. And so
I guess you know what I think it is ultimately. I think deep down it's just I can already see it now. It's like, wait a minute, didn't she die? Yes, she died, but that's the multiverse version of her. But wait, what about the multiverse? Yes, that was another one, and she also died, but she's back now.
Her and Kang, they're just losing. They're just taking the L on life in the multiverse. No, I think for Peggy Carter, when we'll see her in Doomsday and Secret Wars, it'll definitely be like from 616 or like from the branch timeline. And I think considering it's the Russos that are making those movies, I think they want to follow up or address sort of the thematic resonance, of Peggy Carter reuniting with Steve and a branch timeline, all that stuff. maybe we'll see her in like some version of a Captain Carter, like because here this physics design that she has for season 2 and 3, we never seen that in live action. So I can, no, we actually did see. No. I'm talking about the Winter Soldier inspired design, so we could probably see her in that, in like Secret Wars and like in like a white shot. But I don't think she'll like have any major, story parts to it beyond just her as Peggy Carter. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's say so. Again, I do love our kind of like how things conclude here with the Watu and the Eminence. Is kind of like basically they're in the Strange Supremes universe, and again, this would be a perfect opportunity to kill the Eminence.
Mhm.
And Watu, he doesn't do that because again, we saw at the opening of this episode. I like how we bookend the episode like they were friends and they kind of had the swore no, this meant everything to the Watcher, and he was his mentor and everything. So he did not want this fight. He didn't want any of this to happen. And he just shows him the light here. Now that he doesn't have the means to fight him, he shows him like the beauty of the world and like something beyond watching. And I just love that all he wants to do is just share his knowledge. He's done all this watching and he wants to tell him about it. He wants it to be for something. He basically changed the Eminence's mind about we what is it like to live among them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice kind of like payoff for that. The whole lesson in the sunrise. Admittedly, the whole sunrise. It's a little flowery, but it's nice. It's a little all the things to sell, but it's
Hmm.
nice. Anyway, so again, we kind of throw Captain Carter's shield off into give her a little bit of a funerary salute, and it's kind of going down the vast multiverse, and we kind of say the line one last time. We see a bunch of other what ifs we didn't have time for, and there's a Deadpool, there's a Spider-Man with the multiple arms, there's I think Jubilee is Silver Surfer, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. We posed the question of what if, and that's the end of the series.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like again, this was a show that could have lasted multiple seasons, but I think with how Marvel and or Disney operating this entire saga, it's like this was not something that could last for forever. And I think with the fact that next year we're getting our first Avengers movie since 2019, and then Secret Wars is the movie after that. Like it stands to reason that post Secret Wars, the multiverse is not going to be much of a thing. If there is like there might be like one property that exclusively deals with multiverse stuff, but I feel like that's a storytelling thing that's going to be just kind of have the door shut on it, at the end of Secret Wars with whatever the new status quo is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In a perfect world, had things, that the trains run on time, so to speak. It feels like what if would have been in tandem with our multiversal war stuff. Had it been may have gone like I don't know. It definitely feels like 3 seasons at a minimum is what they were shooting for, but I would say maybe 3 to 5 seasons, or at least however many as many phases as we would have, getting from point A to point B. But again, had they, not been delayed and such, I don't know. It feels. I'm with you. It feels like. Say, what if what is intended to be a really good companion piece to the plans and undercurrent, and would have given people a taste of what might be on the horizon with Secret Wars, and basically it's prep time for that. But unfortunately, things have kind of petered out. Maybe if it does well, we'll get more of it. But I have a feeling that they're not. I don't think they're going to revive their own show. I think What If I think has seen its end. I don't. I don't foresee it coming back, but I see like the characters from What If maybe reappearing. So I think I do think we'll see. I think Uatu will show up, but I think it'll be like it might be a nice cameo in a movie. Like perhaps like wouldn't it be great if like during for one of these Avengers movies, honestly for Doomsday, what if the movie opens on Uatu, giving us the breakdown?
Mm-hmm.
like him doing the recap. Like, we've always joked about Luis doing a fun recap of all these Marvel movies. What if the Watcher essentially did the recap?
But maybe not a recap. Maybe he's narrating the story
Well,
of
yeah,
AJ.
sure. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, sure. Let's say he's narrating it, and he's in the
But
background in certain shots too.
yeah, no, but specifically telling the story of RDJ Doom, like how he became like, because if
Mm-hmm.
RDJ Doom is in say Fantastic Four, but maybe it doesn't have that big of a role, Doomsday and see like these, we're gonna need to have an understanding of what makes this character tick, and you want to the Watcher can be a good, entryway into explaining like why is it that Doomsday Doctor Doom looks like Tony Stark.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, it's a shame to see it go, but it's the writing was kind of on the wall, and I think the writing could have been a little stronger. But there was a lot of fun to be had. There's some episodes I really like. I like characters. I like even more so. So it was as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I was still I still got what I wanted from What If. I could have got more of what I wanted, but at least I got a taste of what I wanted there, and I was pretty satisfied with it. I was always excited to tune in and watch What If when it was happening. It did feel like an event, and kind of What If I think fundamentally gets you to the core of what it's like to be a Marvel fan, where again you're just, you're sucked in. There's the characters you care about because they're like there's a familiarity. There's like an old friend, kind of like they're friends from the neighborhood, so to speak, and just seeing whatever shenanigans they get into, and just having the Watcher being the guy to kind of like lead you through that. It's a good feeling.
It's for as much as people can make criticisms about what is quality and storytelling, whatever, it is the only Disney Plus Marvel project that has the longest number of seasons. Loki ended with 2 seasons. WandaVision, you could technically say that like Agatha longest is season 2, and maybe
No,
I mean, it's more like I think it's more of a spin-off, but yeah, it's like what if being 3 seasons, and it being an anime show, and the second, third season coming out within a year of each other. That's like, if nothing else, I imagine for the people involved in the show that they probably had more ideas and more ways to take the show, and I think the studio, specifically Marvel Studios, probably had put too strong of boundaries of what they could and couldn't do. And I only hope that moving forward, post Secret Wars and whatever the multiverse is, and just whatever the state the most familiar MCU is post Secret Wars, I hope that for animated projects that take place in the MCU, that they have a great degree of latitude and freedom to do their, if not their own thing, to go and try something interesting rather than just trying to fit a pre-established mold. I think when What If does breaks the mold in certain respects in some episodes, that's when it is the best. So if nothing else, for the people that enjoy What If, there are certain episodes to come back to, and if nothing else, there's at least an episode or two that will have a premise interesting enough. And I think that the variety of What If in all 3 seasons, even there's certain plot points that reverberate and echo. It was a true anthology show, and I hope Marvel can learn the lessons from What If and whatever anthology shows it does, whether in animation or live action. Um, it embraces the variety, which is the spice of life and is the spice of this show. So, rest in peace, What If.
all right, folks. That'll do it for us tonight as we holster our remotes. The next installment calls for the draw. Mano a mano, just Plus&Us.
To quote another franchise, to you on to the Watcher and to the Watchers at around the world and watching What If, your watch is at an end.